Ping William. Ato in Juba, Malatori, hey, yo, Ping William. Ato in Benti, Walla Kwaju, hey, wow, Ping William. Ato in Malkal, Walla Pinyaram, Ping William.
Thank you so much to our viewers, wherever you are tuning in. Welcome to Lake State Media Beyond Boundaries. And today, on November 19th, 2023, we have young brain, the vibrant brains, the South Sudanese who always believe in the ideals of democracy and the transformations of the bright future of our young nation. On the studio, we have these gentlemen, the leaders of the court. That is a stand for Coalition for Restoration of Democracy. And before I give them chance to introduce themselves and especially their names, let me ask you once again, whoever watching us now, to share this live show on your different platforms so that many people will listen to their views, their thoughts, and their wisdom in regard to the affairs of South Sudan. As that being said, permits me to welcome the spokesperson or the coordinator who is in charge of communication of the court leadership, and that is none other than Mr. Jongkor Mayol. Kindly, the chance is yours. Activate your mic and give us your opening remark before you give us the full introductions of the court. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Majok. I believe my microphone is on right now.
Yes, you are on, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks to Lake State Media for giving us an opportunity to come and speak to the people of South Sudan about the court. And the court is Coalition for Restoration of Democracy. Given the situation that our country is in, actually, we were able to come up with the court. But before I define the court, I want to introduce my colleagues who are here with us today. As a young coalition, I do see Dr. Peter Biar Ajak, which is a coordinator for this coalition. This is Dr. Biar Ajak, and also Ustaz Garang Kuot. He's the rapporteur for now, which is the coordinator for this coalition, and also Dr. Goi Jooyul, coordinator for Upper Nile. And I know there are so many who are not here tonight for there's some reason, that they are not able to attend. Court Coalition for Restoration of Democracy, as I said from the beginning, given the condition that our country and the crisis that are going on, endless war, endless violence, economic meltdown, the core values that people of South Sudan have been fighting for, justice, liberty, prosperity, have been ignored for a very long time. Since we gained independence, we are still going backward. We are not moving any further. We, as a people, like-minded from different political movement, United Citizens for Change, Revive South Sudan, Dr. Peter Biar Ajak, and United Citizens for Change, where I came from, and CPA, where is Ustaz Garang Kuot coming from, and also the Kitgwang faction, where Dr. Goi is coming from, and also 64 Step, where Sister Jambo coming from also. She's not here with us tonight. And also Ustaz Deng Atem, the Red Army of South Sudan. So it's a 6 political movement came together. As I said from the beginning, the light-minded South Sudanese who want to see the past, who want to champion, the cause of democracy for peaceful transitioning. We came together and we formed this so we can move ahead with our country, because the way that our country is going now is going to a dead end, and it requires all of us to come together and move faster rescue the country. I think this is what I can say now, but meanwhile, we will start the discussion.
Thank you so much, Brother Jongkor, for introduction and for also introducing your colleague in the same coalition. Actually, I would ask one of your colleague also to add on to the introduction that you have done. You have mentioned that there are 6 political parties that came together under one umbrella called court. And the reason why you came together is to make sure you have a strong bond and also to create a big umbrella where you can be in a position to champion your agenda toward democracy of the country. Kindly, Dr. Goi or Dr. Peter Biar Ajak, as most of our viewers, don't be surprised. This coalition is for doctors and those who still not yet to that titles that are on their way, joining the rank. So basically, expect more doctors to come through this coalition. Kindly, Dr. Biar, can you add on to the introduction that was done by Mr. Jongkor, who is the communication coordinator of the court coalition? Kindly, the chance is yours.
Thank you very much, Majung Makur, for the invitation. And it's always a pleasure to be at the Lake State Media to talk with the people of South Sudan, share ideas about what is happening in our country, and see how we can move forward. It is really a great honor to be joined by my brothers in the coalition for restoration of democracy. As my brother Jongkor Mayol has said, this is a movement that we established several weeks ago when we gathered in DC. All of us are concerned about the situation that is going on in the country. You know very well now, since 2013, where people have been subjected to a situation of unnecessary war, violence and destruction. A lot of people have been killed. A lot of people have been displaced. The society has been destroyed. People are divided along ethnic and tribal lines. And even within the same tribes, there are divisions along clans. People are killing. Within Nuer community, we see this. Within Dinka, we see this. Even as we speak, we see this situation now between Abiy and Twitch Mayadit. This is a situation that has been going on now for a while. So we are concerned because we have seen this pattern. And the president has said it last time in the case of Jonglei, when he told the parties that if you go and fight again, then this time you fight. The forces that I have, I will use them to protect myself. And whoever ran away can come, and then I will give you protection, but you cannot call yourself a man again. So basically, this has basically sent a message to all the communities in South Sudan that they cannot rely on the state and the government of South Sudan to provide security to them. So they have to rely on themselves. And this has led to proliferation of militias across the entire country. And each community now is trying to address its own grievance or its own issues or vulnerabilities by arming itself and taking decisions and actions on its own. This is a traveling sign, but it's not a new thing, but it's something that we have seen happen continuously. You also know on the economy, the situation with our economy. Right now, $100 is 1,200 South Sudanese pounds. The currency has virtually collapsed. This is basically what we can say, the currency of South Sudan. And even the raise that was set by the government to the public officials, you know that there has been a lot of challenges in actually delivering it. And a lot of people right now still are wondering what has happened to the money. Some people have received, and there are issues of others that have not yet received, including the diplomats who are facing a lot of problems. So we know the import situation is very bad. The humanitarian situation is absolutely horrific because, the disaster in Sudan has deprived the market of essential commodities that used to come there. So we have seen all these situations, and we are concerned that Juba is not addressing them. And the people of South Sudan are suffering. And the country is essentially heading down a cliff where it can fall off. So as concerned South Sudanese and leaders of different movements, we decided to put aside some of the differences that we may have. And it's true, we may have differences, but we agree to put aside those differences so that we could focus on the things that in which we agree. And what we agree is that this country must move forward, that there must be a transition to democracy. Democracy must be restored. People make fun of us sometimes and say, what do you mean by restore? Has it ever been established? Well, first of all, if you look even in our cultures and norms as people, we are democratic. Every single adult, if you have gone through the rituals of adulthood and you become a man, you are entitled to a voice within the affairs of your society. If people are discussing war, you have a voice. If people go to war, you participate, you act, you are independent. If there is anybody that try to, infringe on your rights, you have a right to stand up, even if it is a chief or if it is a priest. Benyabit, you have a right to resist Benyabit. So our society is innately democratic because our values as a people are democratic. So we come together in that way. So this coalition is about restoring those values, those virtues. And what we establish here, this leadership that you see, is not because we are the leaders of this coalition. What you see is that we are a coordinating body, because this coalition is just simply starting. There are so many now, many different other parties and groups that want to join. But this body is only to coordinate so that we are able to figure out the best way to organize and integrate all our resources together for the simple purpose of bringing about democracy in South Sudan.
Thank you so much, Dr. Peter Biar, Ajak, for those remarks and actually introductions in what the court mean and what actually inspired you to, and actually what is the reason for you forming the court. You have mentioned it, the reason what compelled 6 political parties to come together under court. Kindly, one question you have mentioned now, which was supposed to be asked, is that who is the leader of the court? And you said there is no leader yet, but 4 of you plus other 2 who are yet to join us, you are coordinating body. If that is correct, when are you planning to have like a leadership of court? Anybody of you can pick it up from there.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome, Dr. Goi.
I appreciate giving me this opportunity. I will just follow on the word said by my brother, Dr. Biar Ajak. We are actually at the starting stage. Currently we are forming committees, and we don't want to do it alone. We are receiving invitations, and I can attest to this. We've received tens of invitations in the last 2 weeks, but we said instead of just accepting everybody, we must create membership rules, regulations, and so forth. Currently, we are divided up into these groups, and we are working on that. And within a week or so, we will start accepting members as soon as we have all the documentation in place. We do not want to start before others. We want others also to start with us, so that when these rules are put in place, they don't say these things were done by the previous group or so. We want them to start with us at this moment, and every South Sudanese is welcome to join this. Secondly, we are a very unique group. We come from different backgrounds. Most of us have never met each other before. I met maybe 1 or 2, but most of us have not known each other. We come from diverse backgrounds of South Sudan, different parties, and we realize that South Sudan is in a sorry state of affairs. We have known that since the war broke out in 2013. A country coming out of independence started having these economic problems. We had the oil shutdown, we have the war in Ijilich, and we had the misrule going back as 2008. When the SPLM convention was done, there was that verdict that SPLM is not fit to rule, and SPLM leaders started fighting themselves. Instead of correcting all these misrule issues, they started fighting themselves, and that culminated to the war of 2013 that really divided the country into bits. And it's not that. The country continued to experience tribal issues. We have issues of Jonglei, issues in Cholo Kingdom, issues in Wau, and now issues in Abia and Pitch. These are just symptoms. These are just misrule. I call them symptoms of misrule. The real problem in South Sudan is that South Sudan is sinking. A promising child that was born in 2011, it started with a $3 billion budget. And I used to work for the office of the president. And I saw when states were given some budgets, and the presidency alone was finishing almost $1 billion. Now, the budget of South Sudan is less than $800 million. The city that I'm living in here in Sioux Falls is just a city of 200,000 people. They have a budget of $800 million. They have land taxes that amounts to $1 billion. South Sudan is not even touching anything else. That budget depends on an oil revenue. They have not taught our people to work. They have not built a nation. And we said this coalition will start the process of building that nation and returning the hope to the people of South Sudan. We have very brilliant young people in South Sudan that are not given that chance because of the impunity and killings that is going on. We have civil society that is very vibrant in South Sudan. They wanted a new system to run South Sudan. They wanted the public officials to be accountable. They are not allowed. You have this young guy called Biar, Ajak, who just got lost, not Dr. Biar Ajak. Is a younger guy of 27 years old who ran a civil society. He just disappeared, and the government is not allowing people to look for him. Things like that, the fighting in Abia and Twitch. What are the causes of that? You have deep hands of that in Juba. And now we are talking of elections, the mother of all inventions. How can you do elections in this kind of situation? If you do elections now, you are disappearing South Sudan. You're making South Sudan disappear as a country. And we would like these issues to be brought forward by this coalition and by the people of South Sudan and discussed. And if we have to go forward for a very viable country, all of us must we must partake in all this process. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Goi. I don't know whether Jongkor want to add something onto that, but before I give it to you, Jongkor, you will also answer this question alongside Garang Kuot. You said you are yet to form the leadership simply because you don't want to form the structure of the leadership while you don't have the principle or the guiding documents in place. And the guiding documents, you don't want to write them, all these documents, without others. You are waiting for other people to join you, and then you have inclusive kind of discussions so that you can produce the document for your coalition. Kindly, are you open to other coalition, or you are just receiving individuals who want to join your coalition? Thank you so much. You can add something, Dr. Goya, before I go to Jongkor, then I'll come to Garang Kuot.
Oh, thank you very much. When I said that we are waiting for other, I don't mean that we are not doing anything right now. We have started the process of the committees, but we are open for new people to join in and be part of the process that is going on. Individuals are welcomed, and also organizations. We realize that one of the problems in South Sudan is not even tribalism, it's leadership. People always fight over leadership. It's just innate in us as Nilotics. People who grew up in refugee camps and in cattle camps know that people fight for leadership. But in a democratic society, leadership is given to people with the aptitude, people with the knowledge, people with the skills, and people with the people in their heart. For that reason, we want people also to choose their leaders. And court is made up on those bases. When people join, we'll have other committees to join us, other organizations, and then we have the process to select a leader. And that's why we are not really touting that one person is a leader or so that it doesn't divide us. Thank you.
Thank you. Jongkor, unmute yourself.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. The point that actually I was going to add to my brother, Dr. Goi, he did talk also about the violence, communal violence that is ramping in our country. And this communal violence actually is created by the leadership, as Dr. Biar has mentioned from the beginning when he was giving an opportunity for his first remark. The regime that we have in Juba thrive when there is a communal violence. And actually, the people that fought for 22 years, and given the fact President Kiir himself fought for 38 years, we are not supposed to be talking about the violence at the moment. We're supposed to be talking about the developmental project, what needed to be done in schools and building roads and elevation. These are the things that we are supposed to be talking about. But sadly, we can see that sisterly communities like Abia people, Dinkangok, and the Twitch are fighting. And who engineer all this such a thing is the same regime that we have, because actually they want people of South Sudan to go through hardship. So they cannot be thinking about the developmental project. They cannot be thinking about their rights, right of having clean water, having hospital and schools and infrastructure. Instead, those who are in charge are the one actually taking their children outside of the country, to educate them, while their brothers or their colleagues, children, the martyred children, are suffering and their widows are begging in the street of Juba. This is actually so insane. I'm adding this point because these are the things that actually trigger us, and adding to the point that what makes us unique, quote, coalition for restoration for democracy. We tend to define the crisis in South Sudan political in nature, because some you have seen and we have heard other political movement, they are defining it as an ethnic, and Dr. Goi has mentioned that problem of South Sudan is not a tribal, okay? It has political driven, but those leaders who are in charge, they are using tribal in order to collide people of South Sudan so they can remain in the power. And we are determined as a coalition to change that dilemma, because this is not who we are. We fought for justice, liberty, and prosperity. Majuk, I was in Nairobi a week ago, and I was shocked to see the developmental project that are happening, the freeways and the bypass, they have even tolled roads. And all these are happening from what they are getting from South Sudan. South Sudan money are being deposited to a foreign country instead of having money, in our own national bank. So it is so sad, to see things are happening in this way. And that's why we are determined to do what needed really to be done in the country. And we are eager, to champion, or to compete in that election if this election is free and fair. I think you can go ahead.
Thank you so much, Jongkor, for adding into that. Actually, we'll come to the issue of Biar and Twitch later on, so that 3-4 of you will have something to say about that, because it's a very sad incident that people just come from nowhere and kill each other without violent reason for the things which use many people here, that it has been addressed by the leadership of the country. And fortunately, the thing is still coming back after months after months. So you will have a chance to add on to that. But let me move to Garang Kuot. Garang Kuot, kindly, can you tell the viewers and the South Sudanese who are watching now, and other nationals actually, the reason, what makes you unique? It has been mentioned by Jongkor, but it was supposed to be a follow-up question. What makes CORD unique from other coalitions? Remember, there are very many coalitions that have already been formed by the opposition, seeing the crisis of 2013, the crisis of 2016, and up to date. And all oppositions, which the government of South Sudan referred to, whole out group, forms numerous coalition. And South Sudanese are wondering, what is the idea behind all this coalition? And the coalition are outside South Sudan. South Sudanese citizens are asking themselves, what will be the difference between the CORD and the previous coalition that we have witnessed, and they have not even yielded fruits? Kindly, can you tell us something about that? And after you finish, maybe Dr. Biar or Dr. Goi will add something onto that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Majang Makur, and to all your viewers. First of all, let me say thank you to my colleagues for such a beautiful summary of why we came together and formed CORD. Let me go back a bit. When we met in DC between 13th and 14th October 2023, we ask ourselves a big question. South Sudan is in a catch-22 situation. It is in a predicament. Put it this way, you are playing dominance, and then it is locked. You can't play, and you still have some dominance left in your hands. What do you do in that situation? This is exactly the situation South Sudan is in. That what I'm trying to say is this. We are supposed to be going for elections in 2022, 2024. But when you look at the situation in South Sudan right now, there's war all over the place. The Biar, the Upper Nile, all over the place. There is just conflict. Yet we are left with only 1 year to go. And the agreement is supposed to expire by February 2025. So where do you go? You go from there. That's why I gave this analogy of a dominance that is locked. South Sudan is in a catch-22. It is in a predicament situation. So when we came in DC, we sat down for 2 days. And again, as Dr. Goi said earlier, we never met. I saw Suzanne Jambo for the first time, those of Goi for the first time. We don't really have anything in common, apart from the fact that we are South Sudanese. But we had one big question ahead of us. How does South Sudan move from here, given this situation that we are in? We are reaching the end of agreement. We are supposed to be doing the elections. The conditions for the elections are not there. There's war is flaring up all over the place. We realize it was important for all of us to come together, unite our efforts, and be participants in finding a way out of the current situation in South Sudan. That was the reason why we formed a court in DC. What makes us unique from the rest of the coalition that are there? What makes us unique is this. We believe in a peaceful transfer of power, number one. Two, we believe in democratic transition of power in South Sudan. In other words, we want people of South Sudan to have the opportunity to be able to elect their leaders in a free and fair election. We don't believe in other means of removing the government in Juba. But how do you go about this is the bigger question. And that goes back to the catch-22 situation that I was talking about. Okay. So here we are in this situation where we are left with only 1 year to elections, where nothing seems to be moving. So we think coming together will give us an opportunity to be better participants, have a strong voice in ensuring that our voice may be able to unlock this locked situation, so that South Sudan may be able to find an exit strategy to a more peaceful future that all of us are aspiring. That I think and I believe is the biggest difference between us and the rest of the coalition that are there. We think our vision is big. Our vision is bigger than all our smaller parties that came together in DC. And it is a vision that if South Sudanese begin to understand why we came together later, they will realize we don't have a silver bullet that will be able to resolve the problem of South Sudan, but we may be an important player in ensuring that South Sudan exit where it is now locked. Because otherwise, if you ask anybody now in Juba or wherever South Sudanese are, how will you conduct election in this current environment? But then what is the alternative? Okay. The alternative is like us coming together. I really put our heads together and be able to think, how best do we really convince all the South Sudanese political forces and all the groups that are there so that we are able to come together and get the country out of this current situation? Because otherwise, we are headed for, the country is headed for a crash. That's the basis why we came together, brother. Sorry, someone was calling me. That's the basis.
It's okay.
As for the question that you're asking, are you guys able to allow other coalition to join you, or you only allow political parties? These questions this is going to be answered when we have, because right now we are developing our internal rules and regulations, or bylaws, our membership criteria, and all this. Once these things are done, that question will be answered. We may not have the answer right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Peter Biar. What is your take in regard to the questions? What will be the difference of court from other previous coalitions that were actually formed by different political parties? Thank you. Unmute yourself, Doctor.
I think the main difference is the objectives around which people are organizing. For us here, the objective is not necessarily leadership. Our objective is to salvage the nation. We come together for a higher purpose. So we are not looking for positions. So we are not here to negotiate with the government and negotiate for position. That is not the interest that bring us together. We believe that the country need complete and total reform. SPLM used to talk about NCP, or the National Islamic Front, especially the late John Garang. He used to say that the NCP regime is too deformed to be reformed. If you see the system that is now in South Sudan, it is too deformed to be reformed. It requires a complete change. It's totally unable to be a foundation. You remember from the book of Matthew, when Jesus warned of the fool who built his house on a shaky ground, on sand. And when the wind blew, and the rain, and the storm, and all of that, the house collapsed. So we have to be like the wise and build on a strong foundation. And that foundation requires a complete review of our struggle and where we find ourselves today. We know that President Kiir is not genuine about the elections. It's very obvious. But for the sake of willingness for the nation to move forward, we are willing to be partners so that we can practically make the elections happen. When we talk about restoring democracy to the nation, it's not only what we are going to do when we are in power, it's what we are doing now. It's about how we empower the people of South Sudan to be more protective of their own freedom. And because of this, our message and the way in which we organize is going to be robust and intense. We are concerned specifically about the way in which authoritarianism is becoming entrenched, in which kleptocracy is the order of the day. We are not a coalition that is going to be dormant. We are a coalition that I believe the regime will have to reckon with. And that makes us very different. Look at the groups that come here. You know the politics of South Sudan very well. You know both the ethnic, the geography, the history. So make your own analysis and see what does this really mean. But let no one make a mistake that the intention of the people of South Sudan here is for us to have free and fair elections. And we, I am very sure, will agree on only one candidate. And if those elections are free and fair, we are confident that our candidate will carry the day. We are also open to so many others joining. As I said, this coalition is not about us. There are some groups that are specifically about some group, right? So when you hear some group, even just the name in which they are named, it shows that they refer to a specific reference point. We are not like that. So anyone can come here. Anyone has an opportunity to grow and to pursue different ways to serve his nation and his community through court. There are too many houses here for each and every South Sudanese of talent that want to be part and parcel of the next team that is going to advance South Sudan forward. So we invite everyone. What my brother Goi was saying before is that we are still preparing the house. And once everything is ready, all the people of South Sudan, all the young people of South Sudan will be welcome. And in our discussion and exploration, we are very practical. We want democracy. We know that democracy is not given for free. It has to be demanded. And we are capable of working together as people of South Sudan and organize to ensure that we are granted democracy. So this coalition, people that come together, as you can see, they're new faces. These are people that stand up for principles. You know, we are not just looking for positions of power. We are looking to stand for certain values, certain norms. You know, we want to rejuvenate the values of our people and reground them in dignity, self-respect, freedom, independence. Our people now have been corrupted and reduced to beggars. We want to empower them. And the only way to empower them is through freedom, you know, through democracy, so that they can be able to choose their own leaders. So we are going to do that in court. Every step that we take is going to reflect the end that we are trying to realize. We are going to be democratic. We are going to be consensus-oriented. We are going to be thinking together, hand in hand, creating a space for the people of South Sudan to build trust and to nurture a sense of oneness and pursue one dignity, undeterred by any and all the burdens of the past. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Biar Ajak, for actually adding your voice onto that questions and explain it in details exactly what makes you different from the previous coalition which were formed, and what actually can you tell citizens to inspire them to support the new coalitions on the political arena in our country. I will ask Dr. Goi, if you have something to add, kindly activate your mic before I come
Thank you.
the coordinator for communication, Mr. Jongkor. Thanks.
Thank you, Brother Makur. Thank you very much. Adding to all this, you know, seriously, you asked a very good question. What makes us different when we are formed abroad and we are not formed in South Sudan? You know, if you are aware, most movements were formed abroad. Even the SPLA was formed in Ethiopia. You know, saying that you form something abroad does not resonate with the people is not true. I personally come from a movement that is in the ground in South Sudan, that come around the villages in South Sudan. And each one of these members of this coalition have their party members in South Sudan. Therefore, I don't see that being formed in a foreign land negates the objectives we are going for. But seriously, again, South Sudan has gone through a lot. And when we say we are different, we mean that we are for consensus building. You know, most of coalitions that are built, they're built on different objectives. Our objective is to put all our eggs in one basket. And we don't say which way goes first. That's what makes us different. Because most coalitions are formed and their objectives are one. You know, remember when peace agreement was signed in 2008, in 2018, you have all these coalitions that are bags. I call them bags because They were just springing up as the peace agreement was being signed. And the purpose of most of their leaders was to get a docket, a place in the government, so that they can finance their own needs of life. For that reason, we have been studying what is going on in South Sudan. We have been outside of South Sudan. I personally have been outside of South Sudan for 10 years. And I see that half of South Sudan is not in the country. We have a lot of people in refugee camps. Even with the recent peace agreement, what Juba calls gains, the peace agreement has delayed for the last 5 years. It's not being implemented. All the provisions of ARCIS are not being implemented. And you cannot have a marathon of what you did not implement in 5 years and promise me to implement it in 6 months. You know, the elections is just less than a year away. The preparation is not done. I see people doing elections are only in red shirt. I don't see SPLM-IO leaders campaigning. I don't see Lama Kol. I don't see Abdelbagi Aye. I don't see the rest. Therefore, even for me, who has just formed this coalition with my brothers, I cannot be optimistic. I see it very impossible to be part of that election, because even the person closer to the president is not allowed to assemble. You know, you guys have been following on what's going on in Juba. People assemble, they're arrested, they're broken up. For that reason, this coalition is really pushing for that people realize that things have not been done. And people of South Sudan are not going to be taken for a ride again and again and again, because agreements have been signed, they've been broken, and people are going nowhere. You have just seen the soldiers being transferred to Upper Nile. They are frail. They are frail. Some of them are very thin. Some of them may even die. They don't have arms. They don't have the other things. For me, I see that for us to move forward as a coalition, as a country, we need to be sincere. We need to talk about those issues again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Goi, for your remark and actually the explanation that you have given to our viewers. Jongkor, what is your take in regard to the question on the desk?
Thank you one more time, Ustaz Majang Makur. This is actually a very important question. As you know, what makes us unique? Actually, what makes Kuot unique? We believe in talent, and we believe also in human capacity. And also on our mission, Kuot mission is to restore democracy, as we said it from the beginning. Restore democracy and bring about the political change, the change that actually will guarantee fundamental right to the people of South Sudan. A transformation of a new basis that actually shall ensure the dignity and integrity, because these are the things that we are missing, dignity and integrity of people of South Sudan. Also, our strategy shall be uniting and galvanizing the South Sudanese and rally them behind a major engine, which is a democratic change, collectively to transform the country from backwardness society that we are engaging in right now. We are unique, my brother, you know, Majak, because we want to prioritize, you know, a restoration of security and stability. Because now, as I speak with you, South Sudanese are not secure all across the country. And we talk about this in Jonglei, in unity, okay? Not too long ago, even Lake State was in flame. But thank God, you know, there are some people with good heart within. They were able to work something out and brought that, you know, a flame to stability in Lake State. And also adding to the point that I make from the beginning, that we are unique because here we all can flourish together. Here is not with the court. It's not like I am a senior than you, and this guy is not senior. We don't only believe in seniority. We don't believe in seniority. We believe in what you can offer in human capacity, your capability, and what you can do. Because of the seniority that we have in our country now, given the fact that the SPLM is going through seniority, that's why there is no moving. There is a lot vision of the SPLM party since our founding father, Dr. John Garang, has not got anywhere, right? The developmental project that's supposed to be taking place are not. But this is what we can bring. And that's why we are calling restoration of democracy, because we want to restore this hope and aspiration of people of South Sudan that they have been fighting for a half, of a century. It's more than 50 years, our people, have been fighting since 1955, just to be prosperous, to be just. Now you cannot speak up. You will end up in detention. Some people here, they were writing here, this is a party in exile, you are welcome to Blue House, right? You know what? South Sudan doesn't belong to one particular person or a particular community. It belongs to all of us, When we fought the common enemy, we came across from the country, from Madingaul, from Torid, from Buma, from all over, from Jiko, from Law, and worked 3 months to build farm because we knew our common enemy. So it's upon us now to realize that this is needed to be done, not to rely on one man show. That actually, it is an insult to intellectuals who are in the country. People will be waiting for, a presidential decree, who is decreed in and who is decreed out. That's an insult, actually. People of South Sudan are supposed to be vetted to a work, supposed to be vetted to a job that they can do. So we are unique because we are not against any community. These are the community that we care for. Whether you are a Dinka, you are a Nuag, you are Chuluk, you are Bari, you are Zande, these are community of South Sudan. South Sudan comprise of the communities. So we cannot say that Nuer are bad or Nuer are the one that causing the problem in South Sudan, or the Dinka or the Bari or the Zande. No, that's what makes us unique. We tend to define that the crisis in our country is a political. It's not an ethnic. Thank you.
If I can interject.
Thank you.
Ajak, will it be all right?
All right. Yes, 1 minute.
Thank you. 1 minute, yes. There's one thing we have skipped throughout our discussion. This is about us being unique. You see, when we met in DC, one of the contentious issues we discussed was how do we make court different from other coalitions that are there? One of the areas we had Howard's discussing was let court be a vehicle that allow any South Sudanese that believe in democratic transition in South Sudan, whether you are armed or not armed, and you believe in democratic transition in South Sudan, you are welcome. It's a vehicle that welcomes any South Sudanese, regardless of whether you are where or where. And that is exactly why we have Dr. Goi with us here from Kitgwang. Although Kitgwang, of course, have signed an agreement with government in Khartoum, although it has not been implemented, there is an agreement, but it is just an example. So essentially, court is a vehicle that welcome any South Sudanese that believe in democratic transition in South Sudan, as long as conditions are there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Garang Kuot, for respecting and actually give your information in 1 minute. The next question is about, we are still in the collusion aspect before we exit to the insecurity in the country, and thereafter we'll wrap it up with the elections at the end of our discussion. All of you are aware that the SOMA has been in constant consultations with the government of South Sudan, of which the government referred to all-out group. They are now negotiating in Rome. I don't know, I think for 3 years now negotiating. Do you believe like you will be part of SOMA to negotiate with the government, or you don't want to negotiate with the government? So kindly make it clear, please, so that citizens can know what is the intention of court. others may believe that you formed court in order to join hand with Soma and other opposition group so that you can also have a power, a negotiation power. Because when you have power, that's where your negotiation will be effective. So kindly, can you enlighten citizens in regard to that question? And I will start with Dr. Goi. Dr.
Thank you.
Goi, I will be having specific questions to you later on
Thank you.
in regard to Kittigwang. Thank you.
No, that's very interesting, because people are really fixated to the term negotiations. When there is a political groupings or a political party, since 2005, South Sudanese believe that you must negotiate to get a space. But all of us belong to South Sudan. You don't need to negotiate with somebody to be recognized by the people of South Sudan. What are we negotiating for? Let me I've thought we are negotiating for positions. And this is what has been going on in South Sudan. And when you negotiate with positions, these agreements that come after negotiations were not implemented. We still have a lot of issues not taken care of for 2018 peace agreement. Even the recent agreements that have been done by the government through militias, the government has been working very hard to take military groups like Ochan from SPLM-IO in Maywood, like Olony from Upper Nile. They've been doing that. And recently they have done one in Lair, the largest faction, the largest headquarter of Riek Machar forces in Mayandit. The commander defected. And this has been facilitated. There is no sincerity, my brother. You cannot negotiate with somebody who is not sincere. You must have an issue for us to discuss. What is the issue we're discussing with South Sudan? Our issue is big. It's bigger than bigger than SPLM. Is the issue of elections, is the issue of running the country in a very right way. But the government is rushing towards elections so that they legitimize themselves. Even these elections, if it happens, it actually delegitimizes the government more because they are pushing everything under the rug, thinking that they can buy every soldier out there, and that is peace. And one thing I just want to bring up into this discussion is this. You do not need to dare people to fight. Look at Soma. Soma is a coalition of some groups. Most of their leaders have been in house arrest in Kenya and other places. They are kaput. They are doing nothing. And what the government tells them in the peace process in Rome is that you guys don't have teeth. If you guys cannot fight your way through, then you come to Juba. Let us talk in Juba. It will be even worse with us. Currently we are not fighting. They will tell us, look, you don't have tooth to negotiate. Therefore, the government of today in Juba is not even seeking for people to join in. The president should make a series of amnesties to many groupings that are out there. The government is not seeking that. The government is not even seeking to negotiate. They're actually daring us to pick up arms and fight. If you don't fight, you don't negotiate. What kind of system are we introducing? We have seen the daring in Sudan, what it has brought. The groupings that are fighting. And the same things, we'll talk about it later in the issue of Biar and Ngok. This is just what I want to add on this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Goi. We go to Jongkor. What is your take in regard to the question?
My brother, I have been campaigning, resisting and persisting for 7 years here. Some people call me out of mind. He doesn't know what he's doing. But you know that what we have been doing actually has changed some perception in the country. And it's something that I'm proud of, and we continue to do this. We are not in for a position, as my brother, Goi has mentioned. Okay, we are not in for a position. If we are in for a position, we would have been in Juba a long time ago. Look, Dr. Riek Machar, the main faction, the one that fought against the regime in Juba. What had happened after all this deal have been signed and he went into Juba? The peace agreement has been violated. A majority of peace agreement has not been implemented. So that show you President Kiir himself, after he went back to Juba in 2018, he signed that. He didn't want to sign it, but he signed it in Juba in August. And he said, this is not a Holy Quran or a Holy Bible. That tell you he was not interested, actually, for even signing that peace agreement. If he's not interested in signing that agreement, would you think that he would be implementing it? He is not. So we are not here to negotiate, as my brothers put it. Actually, it's a very short answer. And actually, we need to get a mandate from the people of South Sudan. I don't want Kiir to hire me. I don't want any one autocratic regime to hire me. I want people of South Sudan to hire me, to go for a debate, and give ideas to the people of South Sudan. And people of South Sudan will give you that mandate so you can be charged on their affairs, whether in a parliament or whatever post that, anyone that will get. And that you will be accountable, because people are the one that will hold you accountable for anything that is happening. But now the government that we have now, as I said from the beginning, people wait in television, who is decree in, who is decree out. Even though you are in charge of ministry or whether finance or the interior, you are not going to be doing any job that actually supposed to be done for the people of South Sudan, because you know who hire you, who is your boss. But that's not what all about. We want people to be in charge. If you make a mistake, people of South Sudan will kick you out. But not to wait for one man. That's not what we are. And I think this is a very short answer to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jongkor. Thank you. There is takeaway there to we people of South Sudan, that people should be in charge, and it should be the responsibility. It should be your responsibility as citizens to hold each and every post holder accountable.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. We move to Garang Kuot. What is your take on that? Are you ready to join SOMA to negotiate with the government as the coalition or not?
Thank you, Brother Majak. First
Majuk.
of all, Majuk, sorry. Thank you, Majuk. Actually, this is a wrong question for this group. And the reason I said this is a wrong question for this group is because negotiation apply to armed group. Court is not an armed group. It is a political coalition that is seeking to participate in the upcoming elections. So there would be no purpose for this group to negotiate with the government, because there would be no basis for negotiation. And that's why I'm saying this is a wrong question for us. What we may demand in future, one time comes, will be that let there be free political space, so that, like Jongkor said, so that each one of us, like in my case, I go to Northern Barkazal and contest as governor, for example. Allow all those that probably fled the country for one reason or another to return back home, so they participate in the elections. I think that's the only thing that we shall ask from the government. But otherwise, there's no basis whatsoever for this group to negotiate with the government, because we are not an armed group. We are a political organization that would like to participate in the upcoming elections. We shall be demanding more and more for a space that is there for the conditions that are necessary for the conduct of free and fair election to be availed. That's what will be demanded. So the basis for negotiation are not there, because we are not armed group. We are political force organization that would like to participate and challenge the SPLM in 2024. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Garang Kuot. Before I move to Dr. Peter Biar, Garang Kuot, there were discussions a few months ago that the oppositions or the whole our groups were actually calling upon the government of South Sudan to come on the table, what they term as the negotiation roundtable discussion, actually. And roundtable discussions was actually in a different perspective. It was no longer the issue of having armed or not being armed. It's the issue of discussing toward the elections and how to transit the country from the transition to the democracy. So, and that is where SOMA is negotiating now. Otherwise, SOMA, as Dr. Goya put it before, I've been kept for so long waiting for the fruits of that negotiation. And that's why the questions was actually brought to you, so that you can give citizens what they are supposed to hear. But it's good that you are not ready for a negotiation. Your aim is to make sure you persuade the government to do the right things, and then you move toward the election. Thank you for that. Dr. Peter Biar, what can you say among all this? Wrap it up within 1 minute so that we move to the next question. We still have 3 more questions before we end our discussions. And these 3 more questions are large in explanation. So each one of you will have more than 5 minutes in order to explain more in regard to the 3 questions. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. But let's try to keep our discussion also short. Yes, what I want to say is I want to emphasize the point that Garang Kuot made. That it's not that we don't want to negotiate with the government, it's just that we have nothing to negotiate with the government. You know, what we want is the implementation of what is already there. And that is the creation of the conducive environment for the conduct of free and credible elections. So we will be adding our voices to call for that, and we will be demanding for that. We'll be calling for issuing of amnesty, general one and specific ones, for people that feel like they need to return to Juba and are afraid of their security being compromised. We may also insist on security plans for some of the political leaders who will be returning to Juba to go and participate in the democratic elections. So these things, they will come. But currently, we as a group, our main objective is to build consensus. And that is that the country need to move forward, that there must be a transition. And this transition must be led by the people of South Sudan. This transition must be led by people with political will. Since 2013, this is the song we have been singing: lack of political will, lack of political will. You know, so we will want the space to be there so that the people of South Sudan can really decide how the country move forward and be able to decide the kind of leaders that can take the country forward. And we believe that this coalition has a genuine alternative that it has to offer to the people of South Sudan. We have a vision for a country that will be democratic, that will be peaceful, a country that will be united, a country where people can work together. We have strategies on how to rebuild the economy, how to rebuild our relations with the countries that supported the SPLM in the liberation struggle for South Sudan. We have relationship with companies that we have talked to, who are ready to come in and bring in billions of dollars to provide investment in South Sudan and create an economy that empowers our people. We have relations with large organizations that are willing to extend us soft loans that can help to build massive infrastructure. So as you know, we want to build cities, we need to build housing for our people, we need to build road, we need to build sewage systems. But what you see in Juba is tragic, is absolutely horrific. There is no reason why we should be exploiting our people to that level and allowing others, especially foreigners, to come in and exploit our people. You cannot buy anything in Juba unless if you buy it from a foreign shop. You know, all the money is flowing out of the country. This is what Brother Jongkor was saying before. So we as leaders of court, especially as young people, you know, all of us, we are young, right? We are all in our 40s or younger. So we see that the future of this country is being destroyed. Loans are being taken without responsibility, without regard to the interests of the future generations. Resources like water are being easily mortgaged to countries like Egypt. You have unchecked growth of Islam and Islamic finance within the country, especially with characters like Tutkal and Abdelbagi Ayi that are exploiting this issue. So we, as a people and as leaders, as young people, particularly those who champion a Southern identity, an identity that is consistent to the historical legacies of our people, we need to come together and provide a different alternative, a different vision for South Sudan. South Sudan that is free, South Sudan that is tolerant, South Sudan that is prosperous. And we in the court, we are committed to realizing this. We invite everybody to be part of this, but the issue here is we don't want people to join us because they want to be in power. We want them to join us because they share our vision and they are willing to be committed with us on that fellowship. What we are taking is a fellowship. It's a fellowship for restoration of freedom in our society. So this movement that you see here is a movement that we believe that will have a serious role to play in the affairs of the nation in the coming weeks and months, in a way that really, truly galvanize the people of South Sudan to once again dream of a prosperous future. And it will vindicate us from our friends and those who supported us, that will know that we as people of South Sudan, we are people to be trusted, that we can be partners, that if you help us, we remember, we know the burden of friendship and the joy that come with it. We know its rewards, and we are faithful people with whom you can have a profitable and prosperous partnership. So we want everybody that see themselves as our friends to come with us and join us. They will be part of our journey. So we appreciate the persistence, the patience, the endurance, because the times we are in now, they are hard, but they are coming to an end. Because we as people of South Sudan, we must realize that we don't have any problem among ourselves. It's leaders that are trying to create these problems. And we have allowed them to get away with this for so long. And now the time for accountability has come. That accountability can be political through democratic elections. It can be through making sure you have your voice heard. So all of these are things that we as court are exploring and we are going to be pursuing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Peter Biar. Let's move to the questions of insecurity in the country. And we start with the issue of Biar and Twitch, Mayadit. This issue has been there for more than 6 months now, and the citizens are asking themselves, why is it the situation is not subsiding? Is there a hand of government in that, or is it merely because of communal conflict? And it has moved to the extent of actually killing soldiers. So kindly, what is your take in regard to the insecurity in the country? Not only the issue of Twitch and Abyei, there is also crisis in Upper Nile region, and there is also crisis in Equatorial region. Citizens still live in fear, and we are talking about elections. Kindly, can you give us your thoughts in regard to that? Jongkor, I will begin with you.
Thank you, Majuk Makur. You know, Majuk, people of South Sudan during liberation struggle, they were not fighting among themselves. That's one question that everybody, can ask. Why people in Lake State, they were not fighting during liberation struggle? Why they were not fighting between Luanjang and Apuk and, and Agwok in Warap? Why they were not fighting between Ngok Abyei and Ajak Twitch? Right? Have you heard about that? I never heard that there was a fight actually between Balanda in Western Equatoria and Azande. Never. So all of a sudden we fought, okay, because we were marginalized. And now we need to build our nation stable and build economy so we can be a first-class citizen in our own country. But all of a sudden, you see there is a communal violence happening here and there and here and there. That alone will tell you who is behind. And President Kiir has spoken. He said, I don't care. Dr. Peter Biar has said it from the beginning here. When President Kiir went to board and he said that, next time if you guys fought, I will not interfere. We need to shackle enough, Wala mazol yejiri baden, yejini fi Juba, and then I will protect him, and he cannot say that he's a man anymore. My good war Rajil Tani. That tell you now, when you just listen to that statement, how do you feel as a citizen in the country? How do you feel? This is the president. This is the one that's supposed to be protecting the nation, right? But all of a sudden now, he doesn't care about me. He doesn't care about my well-being. He doesn't care about the citizen, security. So, of course, divide and conquer. That's the rules. The autocracy regime in Juba actually has a hand on this division and this community violence in the country. You're all aware of that. Everyone have their own army. Turkey has his own bull. President Kiir has his own. When he created a long army, when he created those Matianganyor and others and Tidkubany and all this, what does that mean? It means actually he did not want an institutionalized army. And SPLM actually, SPLA was an institutional army, because when they fought, they were really institutional army, okay? And they were built to be an institution. But President Kiir didn't want that, because he wanted to maintain the power. To maintain the power, you must have army along the army. And Dr. Jongkor has spoke about this in his clips, okay? So this is the make of the government. People of South Sudan can collide, they can fight. That way, the only worry that will be worried is their security, their well-being. And if they are only worried about their well-being and the meal of the day and to survive, then no one is going to ask, Mr. President, what about the school? What about the street? What about the hospital? No one is going to talk about that. Have you seen people of South Sudan asking about this? People of South Sudan, they have been living in confinement for hundreds of years. We have been marginalized by the North. We have been living in confinement. The first time I've known somebody from Bor, it was 1989. I went to Khartoum in 1986 as a child. But in 1989, that's the first time that I knew, someone with 77 in Arabic, V, my uncle told me, those are the Bor people. They are from the Bor. I did not know. We were living in confinement. So those in Barakazal, they are living in their areas, and there is no, moving around. Now, people of South Sudan, majority of them, they do not know that they have a right, and the government actually can provide clean water and hospital and road and all these things. They did not know. And that's why you see people in the villages, they said, Akuma Kirimayadi. They think Akuma, they belong to Kirimayad, right? That's what they think. And that's the perception that we wanted to change. Because when we fought together. When we voted together, because we need a good governance. We need a just country. We need, liberty. We can speak up, right? That's what it is. They knew exactly. And when some people come sometimes here on the program and they say, oh, we are new, we are a young nation. That excuse is no longer exist. And I believe so. I tell you when he came to your program last time, he said, no, people are not new. South Sudanese are not new. Country of South Sudan is not new. Maybe terminology, the Republic of South Sudan is new. When they went to build farm, when everyone carried the gun and fought, I bet they knew what we were fighting for. We were fighting to be prosperous, to be just, right? To have that accountability so we can be free. That's what it is. So there is nothing new here. There's nothing real new. The terminology Republic of South Sudan is the only one that knew. So it's a make of regime to create, confusion so people of South Sudan can fight and President Kiir can remain in power. It does not believe in free and fair. President Kiir believes in extension. And if you realize that, now some people who don't know exactly what's happening, they will say, oh, President Kiir was elected, but he was not elected. President Kiir has never been elected as the president of the Republic of South Sudan. He was elected as the president of Southern Sudan with a small s, as a region of Southern Sudan in 2010. But because people of South Sudan, they are so generous. You remember he was giving mandate in South-South dialogue to continue. And the election supposed to take place in 2015. But he got us into war. So the election cannot take place. So all of this is for him to remain in power until he died. That's what it is.
Thank you, Jongkor, for that. What is your take, Garang Kuot, in regard to the insecurity in the country?
Thank you very much again, Brother Majok. This is a very important question. You see, when Jongkor was talking, I was just thinking about what is happening in South Sudan. And when if I can go back, when I began my statement at the beginning of the show, I talk of flare-up all over the place. I gave example of South Sudan being in a catch-22 situation. You see, certain conflict in South Sudan don't really need to be happening. I will give example of this ongoing war between Twitch and Abyei. It actually has gone on for more than a year, not 6 months. That conflict does not have to continue happening, because if you look at the two communities, these are communities that have lived together throughout, I don't know, since time immemorial. They are people that can easily resolve their issues while sitting on the table. They should not really be fighting over issues of borders, because borders cannot cause war within South Sudan. How I have described the war between Twitch and Abyei is that it is a failure of traditional and political leadership. Because if there were a plan to resolve this conflict, it would have been resolved long time ago. Sometimes I begin to feel as if maybe there are some entities that have interest in this war between Twitch and Abyei. Otherwise, it is a conflict that is just so simple that even if you were to invite ships from other parts of, the greater Baragazal, you just come and sit with ships in Twitch and Abyei and discuss this conflict would have been resolved long time ago. So why it is not being resolved, it doesn't really make sense. And the same thing we just saw is happening a few days ago in Wow, between Puk and the Dinka in Wow. You go to Murle. Murle is not supposed to be having issues again with Lawnware and Bor, because already we have now administration in Pibor. At least in the past, there was no such element of as governance. But now we have institutions of government. So these things should not really be happening. So what all this thing come down to, Majuk, is that something is fundamentally wrong in South Sudan. Our government, I'm not saying has a hand in this, but our government has not really done enough to be able to resolve some of this conflict. Some conflict may be difficult to resolve because maybe like those things of cattle rustling that have been there throughout history are hard to resolve. They require police and all this. But a lot of other conflicts that are happening in South Sudan should not be happening. If there is that strong, will in the among political elites to want to resolve them, they can be resolved. I don't know why these conflicts are not being resolved. It is going to be a problem. And countries that have fallen apart have signed, South Sudan has now signed that lead to failure of countries like, let's say, Somalia, for example. If, for example, Salva Kiir exit suddenly today from South Sudan leadership, it's quite likely South Sudan may fall apart, because the level of hatred that has been cultivated, the level of distrust that has been cultivated is just so much that it will be hard for anybody to bring these people together. And that brings us back to why we are here today. Because you cannot just sit down and say, let whatever happen, or God, let God does whatever he will do. No. People have got to really sit and ask this like you are asking. Why is this thing happening? Why are these small issues not being resolved? Like the Abyei, for example. What is so hard in resolving this Abyei situation? Why has it become such? Now people are dying in their 40, like the other day, 40 people died today, 36 people die, and more people will continue to die. And that level of hatred will continue to become so hard to even bring peace among these people that should not really have reached this far. So I think there is that element of failure somewhere to really resolve these issues. And this is very dangerous for South Sudan. It is very dangerous for the future of this country, remaining as a united country. That's all I can say about this issue of conflict. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Garang Kuot. I'll move to Dr. Peter Biar. Dr. Peter Biar, can you tell the citizens exactly, or the viewers, the issue of insecurity in the country? Is it because the government is incapable of handling them, as it was put by the previous speaker, which is Garang Kuot? Or is it because the issue of Biar and Twitch cannot be resolved right now. And you will add on to that, what should the government of South Sudan prioritize now? Is it the border issue between Sudan and South Sudan, which is Abyei area, or is it the internal issue of Abyei and Twitch? So kindly give us your thoughts in that regard, because Abyei citizens now feel like they are being pushed right and left, and the issue of Abyei as an area is still remain in question. It has not yet been resolved since the time of CPA. What is your take on that? And take your time. Then we move to Dr. Goi.
Well, you see, I agree with you that the government has no capacity. This is a very weak government that we have in South Sudan. The bureaucracy is very weak. The military is divided, made up of militias and different groups that are not coherent. You have national security on its own. You have, of course, the Presidential Guard, which is the strongest of them all, which is paradoxical. This is why and none of them trust the other. This is why there was these rumors of coups in Juba and the deployment of different troops on the street. So there is the problem of the capacity. But the issue in South Sudan is not the problem of capacity. It is the inability to build the capacity in the first place. You see, if you look at the history of the government of South Sudan since 2005, if they wanted to build capacity, they would have built a strong government. But the intention is to keep the government weak. When you create systems that are vacuous, you make it easier for them to be corrupted, to be manipulated, and to be pressured to serve the will of the individuals. This is why you see the president sometimes shifting. Today it will be MI that is powerful, tomorrow is national security, then is Tiger, then is police, and then all of that. Is intentionally keeping the state weak so that the institutions can be manipulated to project political power. When you think of the system of governance that we have in South Sudan, yes, it's a neo-patrimonial regime. It's a regime in which there is a patron and the system is run through patronage, right? So at the center, there are key big men from certain communities that then use the individual patronage system to draw support for the regime. So you have like Martin Elia from Central Equatoria, Michael McQuay, you have Tutka over there, you have Tonga Ken, you have all these guys. So these individuals now, they are the pillars of the regime, right? That is the patronage system. But what is different about the patronage of South Sudan is that the intention of it, is so extreme, it's extreme form of neo-patrimonialism. The whole of it is really kleptocracy. The objective is to use the state to steal and extract resources from the society for the benefit of the few, right? So the intention from the very beginning is not to improve anything, right? They're not there. But they're trying to create a condition that is acceptable to the people. So when you create war and you create violence, it makes it easy for you to argue the reason why you cannot bring development is because there is war. It makes it easy for you now to suppress people and arrest people to say, oh, so-and-so is conspiring with the enemy, so that you can suppress the civic rights of the people, right? That is the kind of regime, right? There are leaders that perfected this, and President Kiir clearly is following that playbook. One of them was Mobutu Sese Seko. Mobutu was in power for many years, just like Kiir now is in power for so long. And he used the same tactics. Today, he will shift power from the presidential guard to the police, and then the police to the army. Then he doesn't pay soldiers like the way it's going on now. It doesn't pay them for 6 months, 8 months. Then he prints money, like now the currency, has lost value. It does all kinds of tricks, And sometimes he will just tell the army, well, you are authorized to pay yourself under Chapter 10 of the Constitution. Now, the funny thing is there was no Chapter 10 of the Constitution. But what did it mean? It means that the army can now put up roadblocks, and basically loot the population, which is what the government does in areas where there is war, right? Like when there was fighting in Upper Nile, the soldiers are led on the loots. The same thing in Equatoria, and they basically loot and they rob everything, right? That is chapter 10. So it's an extreme form of regime. So I think what is important is for our people to understand the logic. And this is why it's pointless to then say that give them time to let them, build the political will to do ABCD, because they don't intend to do that. Because they know if they do that, once the things are fixed, they will be removed. They will no longer be relevant. So keep things endlessly bad and in transition, so that transition become the end in itself, right? So that is the logic of the state that we have, and that is the logic of the people that we are dealing with. So we have to create a different pressure point to be able to get them to do what the people want. Otherwise, if you say you're going to rely on them to do the right thing for them is to be in power. And why do they want to be in power? So that they can loot power, resources, money, pleasures of life. That is the objective. So what we have to do here as a people is to create an environment where we unite, we build consensus, we end all these conflicts. We don't allow them to use this violence, to create all these problems. We close our ranks and we say that we are moving forward beyond these leaders. We want something new, something that we can actually build, something that can be a solid foundation upon which we can build a nation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Peter Biar. I hope you are done, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Dr. Goya, what is your take in regard to the question on this? Before we move to the deployment of unified forces, thereafter we go to the elections.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Majok, you have done a good job, and we cannot stop talking because these points are very, very important for our people. And I'm talking here about the if clause. Earlier we talked about the issues that are hurting our people, the wars in the countryside, the refugees being in the neighboring countries, the people in UN camp in Juba, the economic situation in the country. All these things are symptoms. These are issues that need to be transformed and taken care of. That includes elections. We're saying if they do this, if they make a political space, if they bring peace, these are all conditional clauses. The conditional clauses, the question with it is, do you believe that is going to be taken care of within 6 months before elections? And that's why, when we talk about elections, we just talk about elections just for the sake of it. We believe that there's no elections. And if it happens, it's going to be a sham elections. And most of us are not going to join a sham elections. But going to what is happening in the countryside, these are issues that are dependent on what the government does, including our foreign policy, including the way we handle our economics. South Sudan came out with so much support from the world. It was midwifed, it was supported, it was given aid that amounts to $1 billion a year. Our hospital systems, our school systems in South Sudan are being run through donations. Our budget is not able to take care of that. And our budget even came to the level where we cannot even pay our own civil servants. The country is in shambles. And all these things are translating to economic issues, to social issues, and political issues. What is happening in Abyei today and Twitch is not an economic issue, it's a political issue. I would say what happens in Murle and Lawnwer and Bor was first economical and criminal at different levels, but it was also made political. It was made economical because there's gold involved. There are chiefdoms to loot, things like that. But what's happening in Abyei? These people are one people, historically one people. Abyei people are guests to Twitch people for many years. They lived together, they intermarried. They had no borders between themselves. No borders between these two people. But now, when you have issues in Sudan that are impacting into South Sudan, there are two things that I must talk about here. First, let me talk about internal dynamics of what makes such situation worse. And it will not only be for Abyei and Twitch, it will be for many societies in South Sudan. The same symptoms that are happening are going to happen in different societies very soon. The first of it is the war in Sudan. When the war happened in Sudan, South Sudan government did not have a policy towards how to manage that war. Did not have a policy on how to relate to Damascene. Did not have a policy to how to relate to Burhan. Every policy South Sudanese government makes is a short-term policy. It's just to make ends meet. They became friends with Burhan because they need the oil to flow, and they get the oil revenues. They did not look at the long-term relationship with Burhan. They also look at Damascene in terms of Harkat al-Musallaha, these groups that are in Juba, because these guys are long-term friends of theirs. And these groups have divided into two, some with Burhan, some with Hamiti. They have allowed a free range for Hamiti to roam Bahr Ghazal, to set up camps in Western Bahr Ghazal, to set up camps in Northern Bahr Ghazal. Hence, making arms proliferation into the hands of many people who did not have arms before. And these communities now take these arms to pillage, to destroy each other. And the government is not talking about the elephant in the room. They continue to hit on its shade. That is a political issue done by the government in Juba, with paying no regard to the people they administer. That's one. The second area is the wrangling of politics in Juba. And Dr. Biar said it very well, when he said that there is this power play between this MI, National Security Police. It only doesn't happen on that. It also happens on tribal basis, on clan basis. There has been this issue. I'm not from Twitch, but I know there have been this issue of tribal fightings, make other groups within the greater Gogrial, the Twitch people. The people of Carbino, let me say that. The people of Bonamalwal. Salva Kiir has not gotten that room to control the whole clan under his. Today, he's friends to Twitch people. Today, he's friends to Abyei people. And when things don't go well for him, Abyei people are let go, Twitch people are taken. Now, both Twitch people and Abyei people are victims of Salva Kiir. None of these groups are being favored by Salva Kiir. Just look at the structure of his government. But when you have a lot of people who are ignorant, this thing can be playing each other. And the common man in South Sudan will suffer. I was watching something earlier about how governments try to create classes in the society. And these classes, I'm not necessarily saying that they're in South Sudan, but they said in the old Greek days, there used to be three classes of people. There used to be idiots and tribalists and the citizens. The idiots are just the common person that takes care of his farm, doesn't care about what the government does, take care of his cows. These are the idiots. These are the common man. I will not call them idiots. These are the people we love. And then there is a secondary group of people that are tribalists. The reason they call them tribal people is not because they believe in a tribe. No, they have a thinking that they must have a warrior that protects that tribe, checks about themselves. And this is the government of South Sudan today. They do anything possible that protects them, including fighting people, killing people, maiming people, and create hunger in the country. We have not reached the third stage, which is the citizenry. The citizens are the people who are enlightened, like people sitting here in this forum. the media, because you must tell people what is blue and what is white and what's white and what is red. And the citizens are independent thinking people who take all the issues and want the people to live in the same platform. And this is what we are trying to do today. Kuot wants people to know that there is a room for people who can create that room for citizenry. We are not people who are tribal people who believe in a grouping, but we are allowing people of South Sudan to wake up and understand what is happening so that the country transforms itself. And that will start by or through accountability, making people accountable so that they are credible. If you are not credible as a person, how can you talk about elections? If you are not credible, how can you talk about peace in the communities? Juba has lost credibility. Therefore, the people of South Sudan must tell them the way out, that you guys have lost credibility. There's no room in 6 months or 9 months to bring people out of UN camps. There's no room for you implementing the peace agreement that you have not done for the last 5 years. There's no room for whatever you're doing. There's no room for us to be cheated again. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Goi. We'll move to the last questions, which were supposed to be 2, but I realize it's only 1 question, and the other part is part B. So we are talking about the election now. In the elections, there is a question of implementation of the agreement, rather. And in the implementation of the agreement, Chapter 2 is so vital to the core of the agreement that the security must be set, the unified forces must be deployed, they must be integrated, and they must be trained and then inaugurated and deployed. And after that, the other procedural for elections must take place before you go for elections. Dr. Goi, you have mentioned for the 5 years, the government failed to implement the agreement and came up with the roadmap. The roadmap grant themselves another 6 months or so up to next year, and then the elections will take place. And kindly, can you tell us, you will tell us on 3 aspects. Number 1, as the court coalition, do you believe that South Sudan must go for an elections next year? You will answer that. If yes, then what can you say about the other political parties within the country who said that there should not be election next year, simply because there are some things that need to be done before elections? And the arguments based on census that need to be conducted, they need electoral law that need to be actually to be passed and implemented, the electoral commission, which the chairperson was actually confirmed last week. And they also talk about the deployment of the unified forces. And some of them say the whole out group should also come in. Thereafter, we'll have elections in a conducive environment. And if you are sent outside to campaign with your team or your coalition, you will not have fear of an unknown gunman or any civilian with a gun in his hand. So that is the argument. But the government on the other side said we should go for election simply because we have to respect the agreement and we have to respect the people of South Sudan. We cannot keep them wait for those long. So, and if that is your argument, you will balance those 2. If yes, then explain. If no, then also explain. And if no, then there is a follow question later on. And within that, you will talk about the Chapter 2, the deployment of unified forces, which just took place this week. And all of you have witnessed, and some of our viewers. I will begin with you, Dr. Goi. Give us your thought on that.
Thank you, my brother Majok. I appreciate the time. Let me just start with this story. When I was a small boy, I used to be mischievous a little bit. And my grandmother told me, Goi, eat this food and finish it now. Because I was making a noise. And then I started eating the food. It was a lot of food. It all went to my stomach. But because I was doing it hastily, I vomited the whole food. Did my grandmother do me a favor by doing that? No. South Sudan, at the current situation, the things we failed to do in 5 years, we are saying that we're going to do it in 6 months. And that's why there's this groups being removed, getting out, the appointments and all this. And these things are all a facade because they're not going to get you something because it's a very short term. Let me just start by elections. South Sudan itself, the government extended itself for 2 years, not 6 months. The roadmap is for 2 years. Nobody was consulted. The people of South Sudan were not consulted. It was just the people who have the agreement, and they said, okay, let's extend our stay and get more salaries for our parliamentarians ourselves for the next 2 years while the people suffer. Within the 2 years they extended themselves, they have not talked about peace in South Sudan. They have not talked about the provisions of reconciliation. They have not talked of refugees being returned. You know, when you talk of the issues of election commission, forces being graduated, you have left out a whole lot of it out. Who is going to make elections? If everybody's in the countryside, if everybody's in Ethiopia and in Sudan and Uganda, that means you are not interested in them. You are telling people that whoever is out of the country, I'm not interested. I'm interested in myself. I just want to legitimize myself to be a leader. For that reason, I, as a person, I said, the election is not ready. Whatever is being done, there's no election. If these things could have been done, and I go back to the if clause. If these things are being done, yes, we'll be ready to go for elections. If the room is created and all these things are done before March. Now we are in November. And if you do everything in haste also, because you just want to do the elections, people will vomit it out. The gunmen will still be there. I go to South Sudan, I get shot on the street, and they said, we don't know who shot you. Therefore, no. That one is one. Let me go to the second question about the security arrangements. You know, that is the crux of everything. That's the heart of the agreement. People wanted to create an army that is unified so that everybody feels like they are part of it. The army that is unified, some of it is not being paid. Even the one that was there before, they're not getting salaries. And even the new group that have been graduated have no salaries. And you are telling me that you're going to give them salaries in the next 6 months because there is elections? There is في نوع من الأنانية هنا, you know, انت داير تكون رئيس تعمل كل حاجة the way you want. They have taken people of South Sudan for a ride because they believe that whatever is said would be followed. Just look at the armies that have defected from SPLM-IO. How would Juba manage them? In every division in South Sudan, all IO forces have defected. And these groups were not even trained. And the government have taken them in. Look at the groups in Ler. Look at the groups in my wood. Look at Uluñ. They were not part of the trained forces. The government have taken them in. Now, they have taken part of the trained forces of SPLM-IO and sent them to Malakal. There is the biggest group of the soldiers that left with SPLM Kitgwang. They are not trained. They are in the countryside. How are we going to do elections in the areas they are in? You know, people of South Sudan need to know all these intricacies, these issues that are in South Sudan before really moving forward. Because it's easy to say, let's go for elections. It's easy to say that when you say no elections, you want to stay in power. I'm not in power. I'm saying no. But if it is going to be yes, you have to do what you are doing now 10 times faster than before. And you have to be sincere, and you have to open the room for everybody. And we have to see, and the people have to judge, not me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Goi. Before I move to the next person, kindly you say that in regard to the current affairs of the nation, you don't see that the elections should be the better option. You feel like there are some things, some ingredients which are missing, must be implemented before we go for an election. If that is the case, what will happen after the end of roadmap? Should you hire the government to extend another 3 years or 5 years in power? And if so, who is the victim? between the government, the bureaucratic government, which is now constituted of 5 vice presidents, and the president himself, and the citizens of the country, and the parliaments of over 600. 1 minute
No,
before I
no,
move to the next person.
thank you, brother. I think the best option was elections, as we agreed for, the best option. But because of all these things that are taking place, it's not an option at all, because it's not going to happen. It's just going to be sham elections. Secondly, if we have to give them an extension, why would it be them to be extended? They have extended themselves twice. You know, they had all these agreements from 2016, 2018, and nothing is changing. Why would they move aside? Why don't you give it to a technocrat? You know, there is this issue of roundtable. You talked about it earlier, and I love that. Is Juba sincere to involve all the stakeholders of South Sudan? Is it sincere to continue with this roundtable? If roundtable could happen in a very good environment, then that roundtable would take that government out. They don't have to extend themselves. Jama, it is not good to repeat the same thing. We have seen Salva in his best, and we don't want to see him again. And he knows if we go for elections, he will not come back. But he will do the elections the way he wants to do it, like what he's doing now. He's driving it by the letter so that he wins. For that reason, there must be a different arrangement altogether. And that's why we are there. Court is there to help in facilitating the different arrangement. And the people of South Sudan will also be there to tell us what is the way forward. Get people who are not power hungry. Get people who will take us for a transition of 3 years or 2 years and go for real elections. But not people who want to continue eating the money. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Goi. Let's move to Dr. Peter Biar. Dr. Peter Biar, what is your take in regard to the elections in South Sudan? Do you believe, at the current affairs currently, do you believe the elections is the best options now that can actually redeem the country? Or you believe that there are some ingredients which are missing that need some time to be put together for South Sudan to conduct free and fair elections in a conducive environment? And if that you are not for elections, who is the victim? If the government extend themselves for another 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years, will citizens be the victims? Will you, as the opposition, be the victims? Or the government will be the victims? Thank you. 5 minutes.
Well, my brother Majong Makur, one thing that I want to make clear is this. The people of South Sudan, they are the ultimate deciders of what happened inside this country. If they want to move forward, there is no force that can hold them back. North Sudan knows when Junubin wanted to move forward and determine who they want to become, they did so. What you saw in 1983 was a revolution. It was an entirety of people coming together, united in their aspirations and in their dreams to bring about a different future. And I feel if you really listen to what is brewing, what is happening within our society, it is another revolution that is brewing. Now, revolution does not always need to be violent. There are peaceful revolutions. And some of us who have been in the West watching what has been happening around the world, you saw these things in Europe, like color revolution, like orange revolution that happened in Ukraine some time back. Those were peaceful, but they were revolutions. And what you see in South Sudan that is brewing is revolution. There is an opportunity for it to be a peaceful revolution. And that is if President Kiir ride the wave and is ahead of it and turn it instead of force that will destroy him and this government of ease that he has built, he uses it as a force to cement the legacy of the SPLM in establishing the Republic of South Sudan. The choice is his, and how he will do it will determine how the country will move forward. If he is really genuine about the elections, then he would move ahead, create conducive environment, free political prisoners, allow the media and the journalists to do their job, Allow the Electoral Commission to be sworn in. We know that they were appointed, but they have not been sworn in up to now. And give them full freedom to pursue their work. I understand that the head of the Electoral Commission want to reach out to the UN immediately and request the UN to provide comprehensive electoral assistance. This is up to him. It's something that he should be entirely entitled to think about with the people that he's working with, because it is his reputation that is on the line. So, whether election will really happen or not will depend how the government behave. But frankly, I don't believe we have the time, because if we are talking about December next year, I don't believe we have the time to do those things that you mentioned that need to be done for the election to be peaceful and to be credible. Now, what does this mean? Does this mean that we extend the government? No. I think the extension should be the last thing. There should not be even an extension in the discussion. And as I said before, the feeling that I get when I listen close to the ground and what is happening on the ground is a revolution brewing. And if there is no opportunity, a window that is created for this revolution to be peaceful, then by default, it will be violent. And when it is violent, it will be destructive. But at least it will bring the change. So we will see. We will see what will happen. We will see how the government is going to respond. We'll see how they are committed to leveling the ground for people to play and engage together. But if they don't, then the forces of nature will determine the fate of South Sudan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Biar, for being brief and actually state your point within a short period of time. You did not even finish your 5 minutes given. Thank you so much on that. Let's move to my brother, Garang Kuot. Garang Kuot, you have had the questions on this, is the issue of elections. Ask the court conclusion. Are you ready for elections? And if no, why? And what will happen at the end of roadmap? Thank you.
Once again, thank you, Majong Makur. You see, the best course of action for South Sudan is for the elections to take place. That is the best course of action, because other alternatives could be very bad for the country. But like I gave an analogy earlier of a lock dominance. I said South Sudan seemed to be in that situation, because practically when you look at the time left for all that is required to be done so that we have elections in South Sudan, we don't seem to have that time. We have practically 6 months, so that by June next year, we shall be talking of the elections, not implementation of the agreement. But as we speak right now, nothing seems to have been implemented in the roadmap. There is just so much that remains to be implemented in 6 months. I will just give example of the Political Parties Council, a body that registers parties in the country. It was reconstituted, but up to now, it is not operational. So there are no parties in South Sudan as we speak. And if you were to register a party, there's nowhere to register it. And we are talking of the elections. You cannot have elections without parties. By law, it will take between 1 to 8 months for the parties to be registered. And that takes us to August next year. When you factor in other factors, like the security arrangement and all these things, we don't seem to have time left to be able to implement all that is required for us to create a conducive environment for the conduct of the elections. So we are really locked, like the lock dominance. That is where the country is. And the government is to be blamed, because the government had all the opportunity, they had all the time to be able to implement this. There was no reason why people had to wait until this time. Now, where do we move from here? And this is where your question comes in. Suppose it has become impractical for the elections to take place given the time left, and we reach next year, and the government, the life of this agreement is supposed to expire. What do we do? Do we do another extension? It will be pointless. I think even the party themselves will think it is meaningless for them to ask for the extension. To do what? They cannot work together. They cannot implement an agreement. That's the reality. Because from 2018 up to next year, they have not been able to do even, like, let's say 10% of the implementation. What would be the purpose of doing another extension? So extension will become meaningless at that point. So what will be the alternative? That's why I was saying other alternative could be better for South Sudan. Maybe some of the alternatives, and I want to read our so that I make a point. I want to read this. Let me read our mission of court. We said that the mission of court is to effect a democratic transition in South Sudan that aligns with the recommendations of the national dialogue. I think one of the ways South Sudan may transition out of this predicament may be to implement the national dialogue. I think that will be the least costly thing that we may resort to, because other alternative will be better. One, extension will not be accepted, I think, by anybody, including the people of South Sudan will say no. There's no reason why you need additional time. You had all the time, you refused to implement the agreement. So there's no purpose why you should be given another time. So 6 months, and you expect all this to be implemented. The security arrangement. Don't talk about the repatriation. We don't even know how many people are in South Sudan. Of course, people already said, let's not talk about census. Even the parties themselves that are supposed to participate in the elections cannot be registered. And you are talking about the elections. It is becoming impractical. So one of the possible things South Sudanese may begin to think about as an alternative, as an exit strategy. I'm not saying this as our position, but I'm looking at the scenarios, answering your question. But suppose we read next year, and already we are in next year. It's just I think a week or two away for us to be in December. So we are actually next year. We are almost there. So suppose we arrive there, and it is becoming impractical, as it is becoming clear that conducting elections in this time span, making all the arrangement needed, is not possible. And election, of course, is not possible. I think the least thing we may think about is the national dialogue, because the national dialogue really is, I think, it's something closer to the free and fair elections, because it was the voice of the people. People said for 4 years, they debated, they identified all the problems of South Sudan, they made beautiful recommendations. I think it may be our window of getting this country out of crisis. If not national dialogue, the next worst thing could be what Biar was talking about. It could be a revolution that is not known whether it is peaceful or violent. That is what could happen. Or it's a country crashing, meaning it's up to anybody. It has become Somalia. We reduce South Sudan into a whole lot, state. Where you sit in your community, arm your community, and you stay alone. These are the scenarios we are facing here. So South Sudanese will begin to think now, as we move to next year, and in particular, our government in Juba, that is in charge, that is whose responsibility is to ensure we have a peaceful exit from this situation where we are in, will need to really think hard and double their effort so that South Sudan does not crash. We know the government in Juba, the unity government, is not the government of the people. It is the government of the parties. These people are appointed by their parties to parliament. They don't come from their constituencies. So it is not the government of the people. Here, we are faced with a very difficult situation. And we all have those options. Either we resort to national dialogue, or I don't know how, elections shall be organize all the requirement done between now and June before we go for preparation for the elections. It is becoming impractical. I'm afraid South Sudan is in for a serious situation. South Sudanese are not stupid. They know these issues. They will continue to think in their circles, in their communities. They will continue to debate. We in the parties will continue to talk about them. But it is a very difficult question to answer. And that's where it goes back to my analogy. South Sudan is in catch-22 situation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kuot, for your answering or for your remark, actually. Let's move to Jongkor. Jongkor, what is your take in regard to the question on that? And take your 5 minutes before we yield it back to the questions on the comment section. That's where we will end our show, actually. Thank you.
Well, Majong Magur, thank you so much one more time. This is a very, very important question that you brought up about the election. But I want to throw in this question. Have you ever heard that President Kiir has decreed out banning his own political party members not to declare their candidacy, whether for gubernatorial or for National Legislative Assembly or for a presidency? Have you ever heard that? I think maybe you have heard that. Have you ever heard also the spokesperson of the government, Makoilwet, saying that the election will take place whether the SPLA will do it alone or not? So I know that you heard that Majok as well. Interestingly, if the main candidate, the incumbent president, if he can ban his own political party members not to declare that candidacy, what does that tell you? What does that tell the citizen? What does that tell South Sudanese about the election? It tells that actually I am the only one man, and I am the only one that will run for this election. Like you know what sarcastically what Idi Amin said in the movie when he said that I am the only one man with the brain. I am the only one man can do anything, and no one else. So that tell you actually from there, that President Kiir is not interested. And also, if I can ask this question, have you ever heard that when Lama Call came to the country, okay, and they have received him in J1, and all of a sudden his own political party members, they wanted to do a reception for him. They were banned by national security not to do any reception. All these are indicators that actually President Kiir is not willing, and he wanted to conduct sham election just to legitimize himself. But unfortunately, it is not going to happen unless there is a magic way of doing it too, because now we are remaining with how many? A few months for an election. This election is not going to take place. That's what we know. But of course, we, the court, we are interested for democratic, free, and fair election. This is what we have been calling for a very long time. But we don't see the way forward. We don't see the path. The math, it doesn't add up, and we do see that. Okay? This is the president that, as Ustaz Garang Kuot have said, stood before the National Legislative Assembly in December 14, 2016. And he made it clear that we have to initiate national dialogue. And national dialogue will be the way forward. Whatever results that will come out from the national dialogue, I will be abide by the results. You hear me? So, the result of national dialogue came out. What happened? The bigger question was, what went wrong in the country? People of South Sudan gave a solid answer. The grand corruption. There was a grand corruption in the country. Mismanagement. Okay? There is no political will. And the two men, Kir Mayar and Riek Machar, they were mentioned if South Sudan to move forward And if South Sudan have to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and then 2 men must exit political life. It was very clear. 79 counties. And President Kiir is the one that initiated. And he said it will be abide by it. But when the result came against it, he put it on the drawer. And he said, nobody talk about it. And actually, he made fun when he went to Kenya, when he was invited on the national prayers in Kenya. And he gave, a speech. And he said, you guys have done tremendous job here in Kenya with these national prayers. I tried to initiate something in South Sudan, but people are making fun of me. People are thinking that this is the other way to abolish the peace agreement. And that's what it was, actually. He wanted to abolish the agreement by initiating national dialogue. And he made fun that actually I wanted to do this, but people are not listening to me. But look, when the result came out, what happened? He refused the results. He did refuse the result. So this is tell you that actually the talk of election that actually they've been talking about, and now all of a sudden they stop talking about it, it's just simply because they run out of option. The extension of 2015 peace agreement end up with the dogfight in J1. You remember that on July 16, 2016. Okay, the dogfight. And there was an extension on 2018 peace agreement, which is, he made it clear when he was speaking in Khartoum, and he said that this is the agreement that actually we will go into implement because we were not forced. But what happened at the end of the day when he went to Juba, he said, oh, this peace agreement was not meant, those who wrote it, it was not meant to be implemented. So he kept contradicting himself. But he's playing a game anyway because he had been using political deception, for the South Sudanese people for a very long time. So this is tell you the nature of men, the nature of the government that we have in Juba. So the idea is that actually the election and election talk is just simply because they ran out of option and they wanted to do something that to legitimize themselves. But of course, as the court member, we are eager to go for that fair and free election. But there is a minimum standard requirement, census, okay? It has to be political space. We got to do debate. Will President Kiir accept a televised, or not even televised, a political debate between him and Lamakol, between him and the Ajak or Jongkor Mayol or any other? Will he accept any political live debate? Of course not. He will not accept any political live debate because he has nothing to say. The only thing that he will do, he will resort to violence. And that's what they are working on right now. My brother Majok, do you know what they are doing right now? You have heard rumors in Juba that actually they wanted to bring in a new chief of staff, and the name chief of staff of the army and the name of Yao Yao keep coming up. Why? In 2013, he has used Dr. Barkazalian from Madingaul, from Twij Mayadid, from Lagos State, to fight his war in 2013. But now people of Barkazal have learned the lesson. People have died for nothing to keep President Kiir in power with no services, with no any dividend to the people of the region. Now he will turn again because he knew that he is no longer, his plan has been known to the people in Barkazal. Now he's moving to this guy, to Yao Yao. And he wanted to use Murle to fight his war. And that's why you have been hearing all the rumors. Rumors in South Sudan, actually, they turn out to be the facts later. You can hear there are rumors, but later, they will turn out to be the facts. So this is the plan right now, because he knows this election, it will be just nothing. So he's preparing himself to fight, for the next fight. So what I can say at the end of the day, this is what needed to happen. National dialogue was the voice of the people. And since national dialogue was the voice of the people, as Ustaz Garang have said, why not? This can be a solution. I did not initiate it. Biar did not initiate it. Dr. Goi did not initiate it. It's President Kiir himself initiated that national dialogue. And the results are there. People of South Sudan have spoken. So if there is no election, there is no extension. We can use this very important document of national dialogue so that country can be rescued, and then we can restart the button And then from there, we move, writing permanent constitution, draw geographical constituencies, because representation has to be based on population. What we have in South Sudan now is chaotic. You cannot have 650 member of parliament. No. And even the allocation of the budget in South Sudan now, do you know how many people live in Northern Pakistan? What is the population? Maybe we are talking about 2.7. Do they allocate the budget in the right manner now, right now? No. They just do equalize right now. That's what they have. Is that the way of fairness? No. If you are taller, you have to wear a tall pants, right? If you are short, you have to wear a short pants. And we stand for fairness. That's what we stand for. So national dialogue is a good solution, because I don't see any way forward with this election. But if it has a magic way of doing it, why not? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ladies, gentlemen, actually, sorry. One of our ladies that's supposed to be here with us has actually some other commitments, and I believe she will be here next time together with our brother Deng Atem. Our regard to you wherever you are, and next time we will still join your colleague on the same platform. Actually, we have exhausted the questions that were on the desk on my part as Lagos State Media, but most of our citizens who are actually following you and watching and listening to you very keenly throw in 3 questions under the comment sections, and they will be displayed by the Lagos State Media team in the studio. One of the questions came from the Victor Makur Madut. Have you registered the so-called political parties based on overseas? Yeah, that's the questions. I think one person should answer it, especially the communications coordinator, Mr. Jongkor. Another question from Deng Mutoto. Is this collections call will be on the ground in South Sudan, or will it end up here in USA? And how is going to South Sudan, or how is it going to South Sudan? So he has 2 questions at the same time. And then we have another question from Cholriak. The situations in the country is complex of militarizations and democracy, where people with armed forces have upper interest in the country than citizens. Majuk Makur asked this great gentleman, how will they have right to participate in the forthcoming elections? And if current regime will not convince to allow more parties that are coming up when our country is 13 months away from the elections. Yeah, those are the 3 questions from the 3 gentlemen. The first questions, I think one of you will answer, especially the communications coordinator, Jongkor, the party being registered, especially the coalitions. And the second questions, you have seen it. I think the second 2 questions, those are the ones that will be displayed while you will be answering them. So, Jongkor.
Thank you, Majuk. Well, in South Sudan, even the SPLM party is not registered. Does your viewer knows that? Does he know that the SPLM party is not registered? So he simply no, we are not registered. But again, as I speak, if President Kiir is genuine, if his government is genuine for calling for this election, of course, we'll be going to the ground and then we'll be registered in the country. But I want your viewer to know that, the one that wrote the question, that even the SPLM party right now is not registered. No party is registered in the Republic of South Sudan. No party have registered so far. This is not because the political parties, they don't want to register. It's because of the autocratic regime, what they are doing. They are not willing. If President Kiir can ban his own political parties, not declare their candidacy, whether you wanted to be independent or you wanted to be, run for a governor, what does that tell you? It tells you a lot. I think this is a simple question, very simple question. And then also there is another question. He said, is this coalition will be on the ground in South Sudan or will it end up in the United States? Well, One thing that our people, Deng Matoto, one thing that our people don't understand, SPLM was found in exile. I don't know. It's not that long ago. Why people forget really quickly like that? SPLM party was found on exile. They were operating in Ethiopia. Their radio, SPLM, was operating in Ethiopia. It wasn't within the Sudan. But at the end of the day, what happened? They were back to the country, and now they are in the country, in the Republic of South Sudan. We are not even shooting the gun. We are asking the simple minimum, a standard, the basic necessity for human rights to be available for all citizens. We are not even asking to negotiate, as Dr. Peter Biar put it. So the question that actually you guys are living in exile and you are forming this political movement or political party, I want you to be, critical thinker before even you ask that question. Okay, I want you to think carefully, because SPLM party was founded outside in the country, not within the country. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jongkor. Let me move to Garang Kuot. Garang Kuot, we have those questions, and I will ask President of Lagos State Media, Ajak, to display the question of Chol Riak, which is the third question. Exactly, yes. That is where you'll pick it up from, Garang Kuot, within 2 minutes.
Actually, this question is tied to the first question that Jongkor just answered. You see quickly, my joke. The guy just asked, the guy who asked whether we are registered or not, and whether we are based in the US, and they are all correlated. I actually answered this question. What I made a comment, I said, Political Parties Council, which is the registrar of the political parties in South Sudan, was reconstituted recently, but it is not operational. Right now, anybody that wants to register a party cannot register in South Sudan. And that's what Jongkor was talking about. Even the SPLM is not registered because the body that is supposed to be registering parties is not operational. This coalition includes parties that have offices in Juba. Like where I come from, the CPA, we have office in Juba. We have been fighting since last year to try to have ourselves registered. It was not possible because there's nowhere to register. And that applies to the next question. That will you base in, why would we be based in the USA? We have said from the beginning that our intention of coming together is to be able to participate in the elections. So the moment conditions are there, what are we doing? We will be moving to South Sudan and be based in Juba and prepare for the elections. So the whole idea of the coalition was to participate in the elections. You cannot participate in the United States or in the West. You will have to participate in Juba, in South Sudan. Coming to the militarization of the situation in South Sudan, that's where we were. That's the issue we were talking about earlier. They flare up all over the place, fighting all over the place. How do you go about conducting elections in such an environment where people are fighting everywhere in South Sudan? It's no longer about even court. It is a general situation that is facing South Sudan and the electoral process that is supposed to come up. So it's not a question about what would court do about the militarization. It's a question about the election as a whole. And the question that South Sudanese should be asking themselves, what do we do in this situation? There is fighting all over the place. There's just so much insecurity. Time is running out for the election to be done. Where do we move from here? And I think that's where Majo was asking us, okay, given this time, given all this situation, what will happen in South Sudan? Suppose the election don't take place. What would be the next, the alternative? I think we gave some suggestion that could be done as alternative. We talk of national dialogue as one possible exit strategy, given this all this confusion that is going on, all the insecurity. This is the situation. And I think we have given all the answers to all these questions that have been asked. Excuse me. So basically, I think that's what I can say. Okay, I don't know what this other thing is. SPLM is not being blocked by anybody to resign. We are saying the body that is supposed
to register is asking, the committee is asking for Jongkor to tell us or the viewers that who blocked the SPLM not to register. If you say the SPLM is not registered.
No,
I think that's where you need more clarification.
I want him not to misquote Jongkor. I want to clarify to him. What Jongkor is telling me is this. Political Parties Council is the body that registers parties. Up to now, it is not operational. So if any SPLM wanted to be registered, where will they get registered? There's only one place in South Sudan where you can be registered, and that is by the Political Parties Council. It was just constituted recently. But as we speak right now, it is not operational. So if you want to go now with your party to be registered, you'll be told, you wait until the body is operationalized. That is the reason why SPLM is not registered, and that's the reason why other parties, including the SPLM-IO, are not registered, because there's nowhere to register. Thank you.
Yes, and adding to that point, it doesn't mean that if you are in charge of the country, if you are the party that in charge, you are automatically, registered. SPLM is not registered, and that's what we are aware of. Okay, they are not registered because from being a political movement, to attain the independent, SPLM officially is not registered. We know this, so no question about it. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jongkor, and thank you so much, Garang Kuot, for answering the questions from the comment section. Let me move to Dr. Goi. Dr. Goi, what is your take in regard to the two questions in the issue of registrations? I think it has already been covered by your two colleagues. The issue of you being present in abroad and are you ready to come home? I think it has already been covered. So you will focus on the third question, which is asking, are you ready to participate in the forthcoming elections or not? And if yes, when are you coming home? Thank you.
Yeah, I think the fourth question is connected to the third question. I just want to clarify something here. Sometimes our viewers or our citizens are not aware of the process of elections. When you have a political parties council, it allows us to register, and they have rules and regulations that will satisfy us to be members of political parties. This process has not been done, and we are waiting for that. I'm just trying to clarify something that was asked in question 3, saying that what if the government doesn't allow you to be registered? Because within the third question that Chol asked, there was a second component to it. The mentality in many countries is that it is the government that allows you to be registered. It is the government to do this and that and that. In this case, that's why I'm referring back to political parties. The government at this point have given all its powers to the Political Parties Council and to the Election Commission. And through that, we exercise the democracy. If the government disallows people, that's what we're talking about here. We are saying that the government should be fair, should allow the institutions to take care of the work. And for that, just to answer the last question is, are we going to have elections? Yes, if these things are done, including the registration of the parties in the right way and the criteria is gained, then we are going for elections. But if not, we are not. It all depends on if condition again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Biar, can you wrap it up within the next 2 minutes before each one of you give their last remark? Thank you. Unmute yourself. Thank you.
I think I just want to summarize again what Court is all about. Court is a coalition, as you have heard us say over and over again. We are committed to restoring democracy to South Sudan. Democracy both in our cultures, in our values, in our norms, in how we behave as people of South Sudan, our egalitarian norms within Jiang, within North and other communities of South Sudan. We want to restore the aspirations for a functional, free society, a liberal democracy. This is what our people has aspired for a very long time. We want to build a functional federal system of governance. This is what our people have asked for since before independence of Sudan. We are committed to addressing the physical needs, health needs of our people, mental needs, economic empowerment, providing healthcare. We are united to do this in a peaceful way that build on the work of our people, but at the same time, we are committed to working with the people of South Sudan to make sure that change is realized. We are committed to doing so because we know that the country must change. We cannot continue to endure the way that we have endured. We believe that elections are the best way, but for the election to be truly credible, it requires the government to show a good faith and to change its behavior. But we know that this is a behavior they cannot change. So what we are committed to doing is to make sure that however the nation moves forward, it is along the recommendation of the national dialogue. And that is for a political transition that does not include President Kiir and Riek Machar. And we as the coalition will unite the people of South Sudan behind this, either to do it through free and fair elections or any other means that is able to allow our people to reclaim their rights. So this is what we are all about. If the conditions permit, we will all come to Juba and contest. Personally, I have asked for the president to issue a general amnesty and a specific amnesty because he has spoken of having a problem with me. And despite my apology, and you remember here on the Lake State Media, I issued an apology to the president. And up to now, no one from the government has ever responded to me. And what I have heard are threats that are coming from Juba. When the president came to the US to attend the UN, I tried to meet with him, but he refused. Not just only refusing because he's busy, but violently refused. So the ball is not on my court. It would be foolish for me to come to Juba without guarantees of security. So I ask you also as a media organization, next time when you interview people from the government, ask them directly so that they respond. How am I an enemy of the president? In what way? There are people in Juba who have done a lot of crimes. And what happened was nothing personal. It was issues related to the nation. And if we are going to move forward and do election, they must include everybody. If we don't want to include everybody, then that is problematic. The same with the SPLM-IO Kilguang group and other members of the coalition, those of Suzanne Jambo and others, they have relatives that have suffered under this regime. They were abused, they were attacked, they nearly died. We want these issues to be resolved. And we want to stress that violence is not good for our society. What is good is when we work together as brothers and sisters so that we can advance what is good for the people of South Sudan. That way we can build a strong nation, a united people, and an economy that is prosperous. So we hope that the government, instead of settling for just looting their own country, looting their own people, ravishing them, that is not something to be proud of. We can together build a future that we can all be proud of. And that is by ensuring that there is a capable government in South Sudan that is able to protect our people and improve their lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Peter Biar. Before I give you a chance to give us your closing remark or your last message to the citizens of South Sudan and to the government of South Sudan, both at home, the citizens, and in diaspora, I will yield it back to my co-host, the State Media President Isaac Tiang, to see whether there is one person from Clubhouse who wants to ask the questions. Thereafter, one of you can answer it, and you will give us your last remark. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Majok Makur Malak, Lagos State Media General Secretary. In the clubhouse, we have the chairperson of South Sudan United Front, Dr. Madud Nayu. Dr. Madud, can you hear us? You open your mic and come with your question, please, if you are there. Because he has been there with us, I'm seeing we opened the show. Hello, Dr. Madud. All right. Without wasting time, I have to thank you all, gentlemen, Jongkor Mayol, Dr. Peter Biar, Ajak, Dr. Goi Jooyul, and Comrade Garang Kuot. Welcome to Lake State Media. We will give you the last shot of your final remarks, and then we will close down the show from here, because the one in the clubhouse is not ready for the question. There are no more questions to give you. Thank you so much. Pick up from here, Majok Makur, organize the final remarks of the closing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Isaac Tian. Let me begin with Garang Kuot. Give us your last remark within 2 minutes. What is your message as individually, and your message as the member of court to the people of South Sudan and to the government of South Sudan? Thank you.
Thank you once again, Brother Majok Makur, for the opportunity you gave us to really have this discussion today. I really appreciate this opportunity. First of all, let me say, South Sudan is a beautiful country. It's a country that came about through enormous sacrifices of the people of South Sudan. We all know what it took between 1955 until 2005 for us to be able to, until 2011 for us to be able to raise our flag. It has come through enormous sacrifices. It's a country that we cannot leave whom it may consent. All of us as stakeholders in South Sudan, we know we can resolve our issues. Despite the challenges that are there, we have the capacity to be able to resolve issues. Our people really need to begin to ask themselves tough questions. As we move to 2024, and given all these enormous challenges that we face, the time left between now and the elections, the amount of work to be done, and the challenges that are there, like the insecurity, the ongoing fighting all over the country, it's the responsibility of the people of South Sudan to begin asking themselves, what do we do? It is no longer a question of whether this is not about government anymore. It's about all of us. And I think that's where we come in as court. Each one of us can play a role in his or a small way, in our communities, in our parties, and all that it entails. That is one part of the citizen responsibility. Again, this idea of division, why so is no longer a question, because South Sudan is at crossroad. And there was that question, what happened? If we go to 2024, elections are not possible, extension is not possible, where do we move from here? We are in a situation, and that where I made a reference to how far we have come to have this country. It's a country that we cannot allow to crash. And it is a country that we cannot allow to disintegrate, because it has come at a enormous cost. We have lost millions and millions of lives to have South Sudan. And this goes now to the government. The responsibility of protecting the people of South Sudan lies in the hand of the government. When we see people dying between Twitch and Abyei, or between Apuk and the Dinka in Wau, or between Murle, the Bor, the Nuer, and you go to Upper Nile, Malakal and all those places, it is the responsibility of the government to ensure that people are protected, because the primary role of the government is protection of the people. I think that's the first responsibility. So our government need to really find a way of resolving these issues, so that this endless death has to stop. That's one. Number two, it is the responsibility of the government to ensure that we have a transition that is peaceful and democratic going to 2024. Because if the government does not play its role, and let me quote my brother, Dr. Goi, when he said that the government will require to do the work they have been doing 10 times as fast as they used to be doing. The onus is now on the government. They have the resources, they have the responsibility to ensure that they have ground necessary for the conduct of the election. Because at the end of the day, the best course of action for South Sudan is to have an election that at least meet some minimum requirement so that people are able to elect their leaders. We exit this difficult situation. We move to a future that will meet the aspirations of the people, aspiration that really meet or meet the dreams for which millions of people died. Thank you once again for hosting us. I appreciate Lake State Media. I hope you will give us this platform again in future when time allow, so that we share more about why court and why we may be the group that may provide some some answers to some of these difficult topics that are facing our people today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Brother Kuot, for your closing remark and your message to the people of South Sudan. That is a challenge to the citizens. You need to ask yourself, what is the next step the country will take at the end of next year if elections will not be the option. Thank you so much. Let's move to Comrade Jongkor. Kindly give us your closing remark for the next 2 minutes. Thereafter, I move to Dr. Peter Biar and then close by Dr. Goi. Thanks.
Thank you, Ustaz Majok, one more time. Thank you for hosting us in Lake State Media. We are so pleased to be here and talk about the issues of our country. As I said from the beginning, I was in Nairobi last week, and I have seen, those who are well off from the nation, wealth. Their children are in Nairobi. Their spouses are in Nairobi. They are living in a better apartment, in good houses, while the children and Matais are begging in Juba, while the widow of Matais are begging in the street of Madinga and all these areas. While the widows of Matianganyor themselves, they are begging, right? No one care about them. While we have soldiers, the oldest soldiers from the SPLA, those who fought for liberation struggle, are hanging in there. Somebody without salaries. It's a matter of destiny. We need to determine. We fought the war, okay, just to have justice and liberty and prosperity. And here we are. And that's the question that people of South Sudan can ask themselves. What can we get with this regime? From 2005 all the way to 2023, with no clean water, with no hospitals, with no schools, with no infrastructures, while those who are in charge are taking their children out with a better life. Is that really what we have been fighting for? That's the question that we need to ask ourselves every single time. So, my brother, this is what I would say, because as a court member, we are determined to champion, as I said from the beginning, the aspiration of the people of South Sudan for a free and prosperous future, okay, and democratic transition in South Sudan. We call upon, that's why we keep calling upon the political forces and civil society group in South Sudan to join us in effort to work toward a free and democratic change in the Republic of South Sudan. Because this is what can get out of the mess that we are in. Any extension, any continuation of this autocratic regime, that means continuation of hunger, of death, of war, of corruption, which are holding South Sudan back. When you go to neighboring countries, you will see Uganda is prospering from what's supposed to be the dividend of South Sudan. You go to Kenya, you see freeways. Not too long ago, when they signed with East African community that we can have a train from Port of Lamu all the way. Now Kenyan, they have done their part. It was a project of, a couple $1 billion. Kenyan, they have done their part. They have already have that train all the way to Nairobi, and they have that freeway all the way to the border of South Sudan. While Kir was the signatory of that project, it hasn't done anything. Ethiopia has done its part too, from Djibouti all the way to Addis, while we are the one that lacking. And you can see on your own eyes what he can offer. Nothing. Nothing. And that's why we need your support. Collectively, we can do this together. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jongkor, for your closing remarks. Dr. Peter Biar.
I want to start by thanking you, my brother Majung Makur, for always hosting us, for being kind always to us, for your consistent invitation. I want to thank Isaac Tieng for his leadership, and the Lake Media, Madin Majak, for always reaching out and encouraging these conversations. We are grateful. You guys are doing a great conversation. And by the way, we appreciate, because what you do, you are really the only entity here that is encouraging a balanced conversation. What you are doing in Lake State Media is to get the people of South Sudan to listen to one another and to hear each other's views. You host, I watch so many programs with some of our own colleagues. Those of my friend Agal Machar is always here. Those of my brother Deng Bolarwe, who is the chairman of CPA, and others, they have been coming here and they have been sharing their views. Sunday De John and others, Abraham Awolaj. So we need that conversation, man. And the Lake State Media has become that platform that is open to anyone and that invites the people of South Sudan to share their ideas, because this is not only something for those of Peter Biar. This is for all of us. It's our country. And what you have done, Majung Makur, since you joined this institution, you have really helped it to grow very fast and to propel it forward. So thank you. And we encourage you, because journalists are very important. You have to have those people that are interested in the truth, that want to know what is happening, that are able to ask difficult questions. And if we don't have them, the society cannot have free exchange of ideas. So I want to encourage you. I want to celebrate you. I want to thank you for your great work. And I also want to encourage you to continue. It's just as important as the work that we are doing, so that our people are truly informed, because information is the ultimate power. The last thing that I want to say to the people of South Sudan, and especially the audience that have joined us to listen to this video, I want to thank them from the bottom of my heart. The reason why you see us always cracking our heads and committing to finding something that we can do is not because we are the only sons and daughters of South Sudan. There are so many millions of South Sudanese citizens, as you know, and they are capable of serving the country. It's not only for us. But the reason why you always see us here is because we are willing to offer ourselves, to step forward. And even now, to do this interview, you could even tell our bodies here, we are very tired. Many of us, we have been struggling day and night, doing so many things. But we know how important it is to engage our people. So we put ourselves forward. We take those risks. And it's not easy. It comes with costs. With someone like me, I spent years in jail because of stepping up. There's a lot that it costs to you personally, to your family, to people that you love. And we keep doing it over and over again, not because we have insatiable appetite for power or ambition. That is not the objective. But we strongly believe in our people, and we believe in the promise of God Almighty. We are His instruments. So there is no other way that we will get freedom, development in our country if we are not able to work for it. God will not bring it to us from heaven. We have to be pursuing. And each one of us, we are that spark that can inspire a nation. Through your own initiative, my brother Majok Makur, you can inspire our entire generation to be committed to something that they were not going to do. So each one of us could be that. So we hold that promise within us. And by keep on trying, by keep on standing up when life throws difficult things at us, we shine our own light, as well as give permission to other people to also shine theirs. And we truly shine our light and not hide it, not be afraid of its brightness, then we can collectively light up this country called South Sudan. There is nothing there in this country called curse. God has not cursed our people. We are blessed. You find it in our soil, in our climate, in our land. Our land is fertile. We get rain. We have the Nile. We have the oil. We have the gold. We have the diamond. We have everything. We are not near oceans for us to suffer from hurricane and all of these things that natural disasters. We don't have that. We don't have tornadoes. We have nothing. So we are blessed. But we have to care about our people. We have to care about each other. We have to know that, the other person is just as important as we are. And what they want is just as important as what we want. We have to be capable of listening. And because in South Sudan, we have a regime that does not want to listen, has already made up its mind, and is basically daring the people of South Sudan either to tolerate, to bow, or to be exterminated through death, or to be displaced through displacement. And as you can see in some cases around the world, once you are displaced from your land, you are no longer really there. And not all the refugees return. This is how human beings migrate. We learn from anthropology that mankind originally came from Africa. How did it get to all the corners of the earth? It's through migration. People are going to move. So we here in South Sudan, let us not take our population for granted. We have not been strategic with the way we are fighting each other. If you look at the history, I was watching a series on Netflix yesterday, and I would really encourage anyone who is really interested in African history and is looking for something to watch on Netflix. There is a show there called African Queens, and it's very, 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 very amazing. It's about a lady who came from a kingdom of Ndongo and Kitamba, which is present-day Angola. She was around there in around 1600. And this lady, she was a daughter of a king. Then her brother became a king, and then she took over. And it was around the time when that part of the world was being depleted, population was being depleted, slavery, Portuguese coming in. And what did the Portuguese do? They got the different chiefs to make deal with them, to capture people they perceive to be their enemies, and they arm them, and then they go to the other chief and they arm them, and then they turn their people against each other. And then now they became prey of all the Europeans. So this woman called Njinga, she was the only one at that time that was ahead, that saw what the Europeans were trying to do. And she was trying to unite all the different kings and all the different kingdoms around to say, look, we are all going to be victims. It's all our people that are being turned into slaves, But, she was almost successful. And then all the other Europeans now all came to participate in the slavery. Then the slavery just grew exponentially. When you look at that history of that continent and the way we as African people have always treated our people, it has left a lot of things to be desired. And we must look at the history. Look at what is happening now in South Sudan. If you go to any shop, the person that is selling things are from Darfur, from different regions, from different parts. There is no Junubi there that own a shop. Go to a hotel, Lebanese, all these other people, foreigners that are making money. Water from the Nile, the mighty Nile that God Almighty gave to us as a blessing and a promise of His presence. The water, the tankers, the Eritrean and Ethiopian. It's our own country, right? So we are raping our country. We are raping our people. If you see what is happening in Paluch, if you go to the oil fields, the way the oil waste has been dumped, the impact it is having on our people, it breaks your heart. And this is the country we call home. These are our own people, our own brothers, people that we are related to by birth and by marriage, our own people. If we treat them like that just simply because we want to be rich or to be powerful, it shows that, if we were alive during that time, because when I was watching that show of Njinka, that queen from Angola that was trying to protect her people, I was asking myself a lot of questions. If I was alive during that time, what would I have done? What would I have done? Would I have acted the way she has acted? And these are the questions that we should always ask ourselves. Yes, we were not alive then, but we are alive now. And although we may not have the brutal form of slavery that was being practiced back then, the conditions that you see in South Sudan, the condition to which our people are subjected, They are not that dissimilar. We fought so that we could be first class in our own country. We still remain second class citizen. And although this time is not by tribe or by race or by anything, there is a new group of people that have emerged and formed themselves into a class. This is a kleptocratic, corrupt militia class. And this is the class that is raping the people of South Sudan. We have to unite. We have to unite ourselves. We have to create a forum. We cannot allow personal ambition and aspiration for leadership to be the only thing that keep on dividing us and preventing our people from realizing their full potential. We cannot take blind tribalism. The way that you hear some opposition leaders say, yes, the country must move forward, but there can be no Dinka. Why must there be no Dinka? Or there must be no Nuer? Why must there be no Nuer? The problem we face is not a tribal issue. It's not an issue of our tribes. All of us sitting here, we are mixed. We have bloods from all the different tribes of South Sudan. That is not an issue. The issue here is about fairness. It's about building a system that can treat people according to the content of their character. And that is the system that we have to build. And it's not a work of specific individuals. So that people, make fun of us and, look at us doing this and doing that. And no. And we don't have to do it. But we do it because we believe in our people. We do it because we don't want our people to be preyed on. We don't want the terrible legacies of history to continuously be repeated and for our people to be always the one treated with contempt and with subjugation. We want our people to be true citizens, no longer subjects. We want them true citizenship. And President Kiir cannot turn around as one of our own brothers to become now the Lord of all the free people of South Sudan and take away our freedom. This we cannot accept. So I want to really urge all our brothers that are watching this video today and to ask them to really reflect about where we are heading as a country. Is this the country that they wanted? This is the country they want, South Sudan. This is the country they fought for. This is the country they want to hand over to their children and to their grandchildren. If not, who are you leaving to bring that country that you want to hand over to your children? Do you think it's a work of Peter Biar and Jongkor, Mayol, Goi, all these people you hear? No. You cannot just sit at home and say, oh, so-and-so is not doing something. Why is Peter Biar not going to Juba? Why must I be the one to be in Juba and to be in Blue House and detained and not you? Why is it that is my suffering that must bring freedom and not yours? Why is it that is my struggle that can create a way forward and not yours? What about you? You have to want it the same way that I want it. And it's only by coming together, each one of us, shining our own light, joining those lights together, those lamps together, we can then have an impact. It's not something to be done by one individual. It has to be done by all of us. And it's not something that can be done by perfect people. We all have imperfections, but we are willing to join hands, to dream, to be better, to improve from where we were so that we become a better nation. We are not looking at what went wrong. We are trying to find out how do we come out of the current problems that we have. Because frankly, we must. If we don't come out of this crisis and we see the situation in Sudan, the situation in Darfur, the situation in Biar, this rising tension with Twitch Mayadit, then we have a real problem. Finally, from the bottom of my heart, I want to send my sincere condolences to all the people that have been killed in this senseless killing that are happening between the people of Twitch Mayadit and the people of Biar. The two communities are some of the most closest communities. They have intermarried together for centuries. They have lived together for centuries. They're essentially one people. I appeal to all my brothers in that two communities. Please put down your arms. That fight that you are having is only destroying our nation. Killing yourself between boundaries of our own territories when we know that those boundaries don't mean anything is pointless. What we should be fighting for is to secure Abyei within the Republic of South Sudan. It is to bring about a free government in Juba that is actually interested in the lives of the people. These are the things that should claim our people's lives, but it cannot be so that we can settle some boundaries. So I appeal to the youth from the two communities and to the leaders to please sit down, brothers to brothers, and solve this problem. We know the two communities are capable of solving this problem. If there are people somewhere that are interested in dividing these two communities and in getting them to destroy one another, I pray in the name of God Almighty that they will fail and peace will prevail among the communities of Twitch-Mayadit and communities of Abyei. May God bless people of South Sudan. And once again, thank you so much, Lake State Media.
Thank you so much, Dr. Peter Ajak, for your concern, for your information, and for your appreciation. We are honored as Lake State Media to host four of you and other South Sudanese that might pass through our media and those who are on their way to join Lake State Media. It is our mandate always to invite great mind of our country. And once you people speak, it always ignites our hope and believe that next tomorrow will be better than tomorrow, and tomorrow will be better than today. Thank you so much for the ideas that you have shared, all of you, and we really appreciate that. I'll give it to Dr. Goi to give his last remark and his last message to the people of South Sudan who are in the country and those who are in diaspora, and even the leadership of the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my brother Majok and brother Madid here. You guys have really done well in managing this. It has been 3 hours already, and I'm a fan of short interviews, but you guys have managed it well. It's us who spoke more because we thought the people of South Sudan would like to hear us. First of all, I just want to make my message to three groups. That's the simple citizenry and the compatriots and the leadership. I grew up in Juba as a child. I went to Juba when I was 1 year old. During that government of Abel Alier and Joseph Lago, their terms, we enjoyed real care. We had good education. We lived in societies where we did not know which tribe we came from. And that memory alone, it still haunts me today because it was a good memory. A lot of our children grew up in refugee camps. We went to a war of liberation just after the fall, after the mere abolishment of the agreement and declaration of Sharia laws. In 1883, most of the people sitting here were either 5-year-old or 6-year-olds, and some of them were not even born. That history of growing up in a refugee camp is a haunting memory. The history of Red Army, that belief that one day they would lead this country. As a person, I grew up in the SPLA as a young person. I came there when I was 18 years old, much older than most of you. Most of you came when they were 5 years old. I came there when I already finished my high school. But looking at the conditions of our people during those years was horrific. But we swallowed everything because we had a civil war. We were fighting for something. We allowed everything to go by. But there is any excuse today that a mother and her children have to go hungry without food. After we attained our independence in 2011, we could do better. Our leadership failed to do so. The tribe is on tribe, a brother is on brother, hunger and everything else has just become a hallmark of South Sudanese. My message to the people of South Sudan in refugee camps, in displacement camps, in the villages that are experiencing war, in Bahar Ghazal and Upper Nile and Equatoria, the people who are experiencing problems related to their lives, be it land grabbing, be it that living UN camp, being misruled, we, the people of South Sudan, could not apologize to you, but we must be in solidarity that this system that is haunting you have to be going away. This system have to be transformed, and it has to come from you. You have to stand up, you have to educate yourselves, and you have to work hard for yourselves and be enlightened and not follow people blindly, because this has been the hallmark of people of South Sudan. People follow leaders because they come from where they hail from, but these leaders don't care a bit about what they do later. My message to compatriots, the people who fought the war of SPLA, there are a lot of you in Juba today, you're suffering. You don't have salaries. But some of you are more comfortable to say that, oh, if it's not me, then why should I care? Some of you are cutting charcoal to survive. Some of you are burying their children every day. Some of you are being killed by the machinery that is there, and you think it is the tribe that is near you. It's not the tribe, it's the system that is incapable of protecting you. You compatriots who have worked with us in civil service, I worked as a civil servant, but you must also be aware that you are also a protector of your own brother. I'm lucky here. I've been a commissioner at my grassroots, and a lot of people have a lot of dreams. These dreams, I worked for 5 years. I was able to put on some of the programs on ground. They worked. People were happy for that short period. We thought we were taking towns to villages. But shortly after, a civil war breaks out. It dashes all these hopes away. I would talk to my leaders in South Sudan who turn a deaf ear to people. You know, leaders are everybody that is in that system of government. I'm one lucky person also who worked for President Salva Kiir. When the government started, I left UN to work for President Salva Kiir as a director of special programs. I have an intimate knowledge and relationship close to him. I have colleagues in that government that have just turned a blind eye because they are looting. They forgot that they're humans. They forgot that they will die one day and their children will replace them. And their children will have bad names in Nilotic society. Gentlemen, you work to advise our leaders. President Salva Kiir, I work with him. I also work with Dr. Riek Machar very closely for many years. And I have intimate relations with him. Most of the leaders in South Sudan today, I know them. I could have just walked to Juba and say, look, I want to get this, and I get it. But what about the thousands of people that are suffering in the countryside? That knowledge alone would not allow me to do that. President Salva, you always say that you will not take people of South Sudan back to war. But I could see that you're taking them back to war again by preparing for a sham elections. Elections that will pit people against each other again. You have a chance to redeem yourself with your colleagues and allow the next generation of leaders to take over. It's not too late. Would you wait for death? That's not honorable. It's honorable to let others lead. It's honorable to think about the people dying in South Sudan. Whatever is happening in Sudan today is happening to South Sudan. It's coming slowly. By miscalculations, the arms are already in South Sudan. I thank everybody here. I thank the people of South Sudan for paying attention. And you always question us, make us accountable, whatever we do. I ask you all this, and we go to sleep tonight. And may God bless South Sudan and bless the people of South Sudan. They have food on their table and have a good governance system in the next few months. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Goi, for wonderful closing remark. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. The next, Mr. Garang Kuot, did you put your last statement in?
No, actually, I was the first one. This whole yeah.
Okay.
I'm the last person to close it. Thank you.
And then the last is Mr. Jongkor Mayol.
We already did. We already
I'm
know.
the last person. I'm the one who closed it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I was not. So okay, thank you guys. I just want Majuk, are you there? So I think Majuk and Isaac they left. So thank you, Dr. Goi and Dr. Peter Ajak and Mr. Garang Kuot and Jongkor Mayol. Thank you so much for coming to Lake State Media. On behalf of Lake State Media team, we are so honored to have you on our media platform, and all the viewers of Lake State Media, they are happy to have you today to listen to your voice. So for that, this said, I just say thank you and have a wonderful weekend. We will see you next time. When we say we will, yes, of course, we will invite you back again. So because the more we come together and to discuss our country issues, that's where we can find the solution and fix something going on wrong in our country. So thank you, gentlemen. Have a wonderful weekend. May God bless you. God bless South Sudan.
Thank you so much, my brother.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. And thank you all our viewers. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
In Juba, Malatori, hey, Ambio, in Ping William, in Benti, Walla Quaju, hey, wow, in Ping William, in Malkal, Walla Pinyaram, in Ping William.